Yes, people, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love with those that you love to do them with. It's your Thursday night. It is Thursday night, 7:15. We moved it slightly forward because 8 o'clock just seemed a little bit too far away. And I felt like I wanted to kind of get this going, see what was going to happen with the limo. I can hear myself in the background. That's annoying. Super annoying. Let's get rid of that. Go away, Sean. You forensically shit bastard. How's everyone doing, guys? Welcome back. I hope everyone is enjoying the start to your 2025. Listen, before we get going, I don't know if people saw it or not earlier on today. It was on the Savas Football Heritage TV. Apparently things got a little bit spicy. I haven't had a chance to look at it back. I think Savas taken it off air. Didn't ask him to do that, but I haven't had a chance to even really sort of. You get caught up in things. You don't really have a chance to reflect on the backside of it, whether or not you have regrets. As I've said to you 1,000 times, this version of me, Sean Butler, 2025, 2024, this new version of me, like with what I'm going through, I don't really have that many regrets. I've always said, if you ain't made me, paid me, or laid me, then I don't really care. This sort of version of me. That at the same time, if I was in the wrong, can't see. Obviously, I can't go back and check it. If I was in the wrong, if I was a donut, then fair enough. I hold my hands up. And I have, for what it's worth, reached out to Sava, as we always do, straight afterwards and kiss and make up. And I said, mate, listen, for my part in it, apologies if it spoiled the show. I'm torn and twisted about how to feel about the whole thing, though, guys. I've got to be entirely honest because, like, in the moment, you know, I'm always someone that sort of sits there and goes, I don't need to be on the like popular side of a take to feel like my stance on something is right or wrong. If I was aggressive, if I was nasty, if I made it personal, of course, then that is something that I would regret and reflect on. I haven't had a chance to watch it back. But at the same time, in the moment, I felt like everything that I was being accused of, I was also on the receiving end of. And so, I don't know. You know, let me know in the comments, guys. Because, listen, like I say, when you're on a channel that is like obviously leans a certain way, and then the audience of which obviously leans a certain way, then you know you're gonna be. I don't know, if you're smart enough to kind of figure out the kind of the in between bits and that, you're gonna sit there and kind of go. And also, natural inclination is always to kind of figure out that you probably have a justification to acting the way you do. Well, that's just human nature. But at the same time, you're going to sit there and see like the kind of overarching kind of feedback. But I'm very used to it. I go on to lots of channels where my stance is the unpopular take. It doesn't mean that I care about that because the popularity of opinion and the veracity of it have absolutely no relationship. Never have, never will. It's all about how you represent your arguments, how much confidence you have in the things that you say. And I'm generally someone that I'm confident in the way I represent my arguments. However, like I said, if I got personal, if I didn't mean to. It's not my style usually to do that. I'm going through a lot of shit. Doesn't mean that it's excusable. Maybe this is the thing, right? The difference between an excuse and an explanation. Some of the things I was trying to say to Alex on there, you know, people were saying, oh, Sean, you're patronising Alex, or Alex was saying I was patronising him. I don't know what the difference is between patronising and condescension if when you're making your argument and someone just comes back and dismisses it by saying, you know, your excuses. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't that just condescension? Isn't that just dismissiveness? I don't know. It don't really matter. Like I say, if you ain't made me, paid me, or laid me, I don't really care. But at the same time, I didn't want to spoil anyone's show. And I certainly didn't want to be the catalyst for what would have been and could have been a really cracking show if now the takeaway conversation point is all about something else. So for that point, for that purpose, for that benefit, then I apologise if I ruined what was 4.5 hour effort. It's probably not something that I am going to reflect on and think positively about myself. But at the same time, it's just you know, it's good content, right? I think most people would enjoy it, even if it was a little bit awkward at times. I don't know. Whatever, guys. Listen, let's just move on. Moving on. And I want to say welcome to the fan show. This is where you get your chance to finally say it. There's been a lot of people that have had memberships for a long time. A lot of people that get gifted memberships. Blaine Devlin, wonderful, wonderful, generous guy. Lots of other people as well. Rakdos Madness is one of the regulars who like to gift these memberships. And I sometimes sit there and think, I don't do enough. I don't offer enough opportunity for you guys to come on and say how you want to say what you want to say about Tottenham, say what you want to say about me, say what you want to say about Daniel Levy, whatever you want to do. The opportunity is there. The link, if you are a pony or a puppy, the link is in the community section. So what you got to do if you want to find it, before I put it out there to everybody else, I'm going to give you first come, first serve. We've got a couple of guys in the back, Ryan and Eugene, are waiting to come and say their piece. And if you wanted to be part of that, either we're going to do it one by one or we're going to do it as a group, a sort of open forum thing. We'll go where we go. We want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's all good. Let's see who's in the house quickly. We got Rue Ducouve saying Sean. We got Ishak Taraftar. Isn't this the geezer that always used to be a donut? I forget. I think he might have been an absolute donut. I think I might have banned him a long time ago. Ishak, is that you? Same guy? Did I ban you like years ago for being a donut? I'm not sure. The name rings a bell. If so, you must have changed your name or set up a new name in a new account. I don't know, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt just in case you're not. How are you, Sean, now from being rattled? I'm okay, mate. I'm good. Yeah. I wasn't sure if I was rattled. I was more just rattled. Is rattled the right word? Rattled is like I feel like rattled is a word that's used to suggest that you lost control. I just feel like if someone's going to put me on mute, I'm going to fucking answer back. I'm going to have a problem with that, considering the relationship that Savra and I have got. You put someone on mute, it's a bit of a disrespect. And that's why I acted the way I did. Possibly. Maybe I shouldn't have done. Who cares? We're moving on. Anyway. Oh dear, says Craig Nichols. Don't know what that means. Made me giggle. Good. Evening pal, says Hennessy. Finn Rickwood. Big up Sean. Big up Chat. Big up Roy. Big up Crod Squad Cummings. Love that name. What's crack-a-lacking? HMQ. All right, Sean. Hope you're feeling better. I'm not really, mate. Still got a horrible cough. Still got a horrible chesty little niggle wiggle that I've got to navigate. But that's why I'm vaping at the same time, because I don't learn my lesson. You know what? It would go away a lot quicker if I put this bad boy down. Can't put down the pen. Can't put down the pipe. Evening Spurs fan, John. Good up. John, good to see you, mate. Hope you're okay. Bookie TV. Love that name. Bookie TV. Saw it. Good. Good. I'd like to be able to see it back, but I can't. It's not there, is it? Did they what? Is there people and I can't see some of the chat. I don't know what's going on. Big up Sean. What's up, Sean? Says Dry Roast Peanut, Chad the Bolt. HMQ, I watched it. It was pretty legendary. Lisa O, evening, Sean. Spicy is good. Good to see you. What happened? Evening, guys. Do I even bother clicking the link, Sean? Do you even bother? Do I ever bother clicking the link, Sean? Lee, yeah, man. Get on board. I'd love to have a chat with you. I don't appreciate you making a mention to the alcohol. Not that I give a shit about your stance on me having a drink, but I don't appreciate that. It seemed like a little sly little dig. And like I said earlier, I feel like, you're a little bit inculcated by the place in which you spend most of your time. But my man, Lee, the forum is open. You're more than welcome, buddy. You are more than welcome. So as long as you come with the right intentions, I'm more than happy to share the screen, and we'll go from there, buddy. But yeah, no issue, my man. No issue at all. Of course you can click the link, man. Of course you can click the link. I didn't even know you were a member. I guess you were a gifted member. There he is. He's coming in. Nice to see it. Love to see it. I'll bring you guys in a second once we want to say hello to everyone. PH family, he got very spicy. Yeah, he did. He did. Eugene, big up. Tom, big up. Futures bright, futures lily white. Oh yes, was ridiculous, Sean. To be honest, Sean, only just a game, mate. We all get emotional. Human nature. We move on with that. Yeah, exactly. There's at the same time, guys. I hope you can appreciate. Like I said, not that it's an excuse, not that it's an explanation, but it's consideration. If you want to throw me under the bus, if you want to think that I've ruined the show, like I say, I do apologise. It's not my style. No, usually, you know me. If you know me by now, not really my style, but I am dealing with a fuck ton of other things going on that are affecting me in ways that I probably can't predict. It's not the first time, won't be the last time that I probably over egg the pudding with some internal monologues that kind of then spew out in various different formats that I'm not particularly proud of. But it is what it is. I hope Sava's okay with that. In fact, I think he is putting a super chat. Let me come to that in a second. Big up, Sean. Big up, Drewzilla. What's happened? Don't worry, man. Just a show. Hennessy, the one time I don't watch it, for God's sake. Morning, Sean. I was listening to that show earlier. You did nothing wrong, and Sava doesn't let anyone question his stat. No, I love Sava to pieces, man. We're all good. We are all mates, and these things come and happen. Like, Sava and I have had so many absolute belters in the past. I think Henry Wright's most popular heated stream of all time on his previous channel was Sava and I having a ding-dong derby one Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock about the Aston Villa growth. That was a one. That was that about Sava, if you're still watching? Was that about what is the pull of the stadium, I think? And we got heated on that one as well. I think you walked off the stream that time, or I did, or someone did. Anyway, Andy the Spurs fan. Hi, Sean. Watched you earlier. It was a good debate. Wasn't like you at all. Hope you're okay. Yeah, it's not like me. Spurs will sign no one this window. That's not true. Well, Sean versus everyone, lol. That is always the case, Brandon. It's always the case. I am usually it's always me against everyone, but that's okay. I like that play. I like that role. Gives me the chance to say more. You know. Wait, what's happened? Oh wait. Let me see what else we've got going on here. To be fair, I've seen you and Saba get heated on. Exactly. Oh, other people's opinions. Exactly. Yeah, we do. We like that. Spurs must sign a goalkeeper 100%. Oh, this has got Sam Johnson to talk about, guys. Sam Johnson. Anyone fancy him? Not me. No, sir. No, thank you very much. Don't want that geezer. Basically, it boiled down to yeah. Just the fight to debate was good. It was uncomfortable at times. Okay, let's move on from that shit. Who else we got going on? Sam Johnson news. Yeah. I saw that, Dev. He is a bang average shot stopper. Bang average. Like worse than, in my opinion, I believe he's up there with the worst in the league. Probably like Altay Bayindir level of poorness in the shot stopping realms. And you don't really want that, do you? Not too bad at other things, but not good enough in the A, Bs and Cs. Let's shoot forward, guys. You'll see Football Heritage saying, it's all love, Sean, these things happen, and we're both passionate. We are indeed, mate. We are very, very, very passionate. Listen, for what it's worth, Sam, sorry if I did ruin your show, my man. And if you want to put it up there, if you want to press the public button or whatever you've done, I don't care, man. I live by the sword, die by the sword. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. If you want people to, if you want to get the kind of spice of that show back, you want to get the juice, whatever, just think about it. I don't care, man. It's all good. It doesn't bother me. You haven't got to take it down for my benefit. I'm more than happy to wear the scars of whatever I acted like a donut for. It's cool. Anyway, guys, let's get on with it. Okay, what are we doing here? This is the show. So I've got 3 people in the background. I'm going to bring them all on right now. I'm going to give you guys that are the ponies and the puppies. I'll give you until, 7:30. I'll give you an extra 10 minutes. And if no one else who wants to come in ahead of the crew after that, then I'll at 7:40, I'll put out the ticket. You know what? Fuck it. Sorry, guys. You've had like 20 minutes now. There's the link. Anyone wants to come on, you're more than welcome. Let's bring in the few guys we've got here. Ryan, Eugene, and Lee Enigma 27. Big up, guys. How's everyone doing? Ryan, I'll start with you, man. How's things?
Yeah, not too bad. Just want to wish everyone in the chat a Happy New Year, and everyone on the panel a Happy New Year as well. I'm good, thanks. Apart from that.
Nice to see you, man. It was nice to meet you back in the back room briefly. I hope your cats are all good. Eugene, you were on last week. Nice to have you back, buddy. I think you came on last week and then ended up getting stuck in. You were like caught in the middle of like a massive debate. I forget who was.
Oh, it was Sava and somebody else. That's okay. It was fun. I always enjoy talking to Sava. Good to see Ryan. Good to be on, Sean. Lee, good to be on with you. Been watching you before for a while, so good to be on with you.
Yeah, good stuff. Lee, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Listen, first off, I just want to say, comment I put earlier, I took it straight out. I apologise for that. Completely.
All good, my man. It's all good,
but to be fair, listen, Sean, it wasn't a dig. It was a observation. But that's not for me to get involved in. That's you. You do you. I'm not. That's not for me to be commenting in a public chat. So I apologise for that. Took it out. Took the comment out. Job done.
I appreciate it.
All good.
And it's also, man. Like, listen, like I know. Obviously, I don't know you. Obviously, with the channel that you frequent, obviously, I would imagine that your opinion of me is probably somewhat.
Not at all. There's a common misconception that everyone that goes on that channel is the same as a certain person. That's not the case. I've had disagreements and a difference of opinion with even people on our own channel. So that's why I like to get all different opinions, and I watch your stuff in the morning as well. So
cool, man. All right, but
it is what it is.
It is what it is, 100%. And listen, like I say, shouldn't have reacted the way I did either. When I saw the comment.
Although one thing I will say, and this goes on to how I'm feeling as a Spurs fan right now, I don't think I've ever been lower. And I don't say that from a footballing perspective. I'm just saying that from a way that the fan base is at the moment. I'm so down on the way that a lot of fans are going after each other.
Yeah,
the chats are across many different shows, the differences of opinion, the complete divide. It's upsetting as a football club and as supporting a football club for so many years to see us in this kind of the way that we are right now. It's saddening to see. I'm not going to lie.
I don't disagree. I would also make the argument in support of that that it shouldn't have to be this way. But I think that part of the problem is we are a perennial club that sits in that pocket between fifth, sixth, whatever, and everybody else, where we're kind of so close. We have been so close, but so far for so long, on the cusp of success, but also miles away from it. And then, depending on how you want to perceive that, given how long you've been a fan of Tottenham and what your priorities are, what your expectations are, and whatever else, it's like there's no other football club, I don't believe, in the Premier League. Probably, I don't know about other leagues, but there's no other football club, I would say, in the Premier League that is where every opinion is more valid, no matter how sort of diverse they are. I very rarely hear opinions that are completely like just. I struggle to even acknowledge where they come to that conclusion from. Depending on, like I said, the variables of how you shape your argument, how you look at life, or how you look at Tottenham, it's very easy to be incredibly unhappy. It's also maybe more difficult, but certainly you can still see it from a different perspective. And that's, I guess why we do these shows. Right? I'm going to try and do. Let me bring these other guys in, and then we're going to sort of bring you in. We've got Adrian Stroker, and we've also got Sam. Hi, Sam. Haven't met you before. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not bad, Sean.
Nice to meet you, boss. Yeah, good man. How you doing, Adrian? Good to see you, mate.
I'm fine. Happy New Year to all you Spurs fans out there, whether you agree with what I say or not.
Yeah, well, Happy New Year, team, mate. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Let me start here with you, Lee. I guess the first topic of the day is probably the overarching thesis right now. We can park the Levy stuff. Maybe it will come in as part of the kind of dialogue. But Ange is the topic of the day. Are you as I mean, I think I know your stance. I think I've heard it, but for those of you that don't, where are you at? Where are you at with Ange? Given the proximity now, we're in the window. The window's just started. Do you want to see us give him more money? Are you backing? How close are you to kind of being like not interested at all? What's your overarching stance on Ange Postecoglou?
So for me, I've never been convinced by this guy since day one. I was never, oh my God, he's going to be great at this club, because as we've seen over the years, whether it's managers or players, when you're coming from the kind of place that he's come from, the leagues that he's come from, you're not proven. You're never proven. And you've got to prove yourself in that league before you can make a name for yourself. What I've seen over the 19 months now so far, I don't think his type of football is sustained. Well, it's 18, 19 months, I think. We talk about it so often that time passes by, and I don't even know what day of the week it is, to be honest, over Christmas. Nothing that I've seen so far has shown me that right now his way of instilling his style of football is sustainable, because I believe that this group of players are better than where we are positional wise in the league right now. Now, I know you're going to get a lot of people that say it's the tactics. I don't believe these tactics are sustainable. I don't believe the way that he trains is sustainable, especially when you haven't got a squad like a Man City that has got 11 plus another 11 that you can play week in, week out, and they will give you the same kind of levels as the first 11 do, right? We don't have that. We have our first 11, where we've seen that we've got really bad problems with injuries at the back. We've got players that can come in. I think we're too packed out in midfield. I think we haven't got the same level of backup in the defence, and I don't think we've got the right level in the forward line to do what he wants. Which, from what I'm reading into it, is you score more than you concede.
Right.
We know there's a lot out there where people don't. I mean, I look at a lot of the training, and I look at a lot of the videos that they put out, and it's strange to me that he seems to focus on one area. He has a style. He has players that he tries to get to play that style, and it's almost like the players aren't. We don't seem to have what I would, the age-old saying, jack of all trades, master of none. He seems to like players that can multitask and multi-role. I don't think the players that we've got will work for him, right? And the point that you made earlier on, where you've got these starlets type of players that are good at one thing but not good at the others. I mean, I think you were spot on there. It's almost like you have to have a whole group of like players that will give you a 7 out of 10 every week, right? That do their job, but they do it well, and you can sustain it. I just don't think he's got a group of players that can sustain this high intensity football. So for me, I don't think that the board are going to give him a load more money. I think he's had enough. I think.
Would you be on board him being given what he needs, or would you rather someone else get that money?
I'm struggling to see, even with a squad of great players, I'm not say world class because that's not even a thing with Tottenham, but even with a group, say, all right, let's take if he had Man City's team, right? I don't think with the high intensity way that he plays, it would necessarily still work in the Premier League. So I think it's a bit of both. I think it's a squad and it's also the tactics. I think they're a bit naive for the Premier League, but that's just my opinion.
So that's a valid one, mate. Just quickly, just a quick follow-up on that one then. Well, you mentioned the fact that I have a problem with his constant requirement for versatility, and I think that his system requires specificity. I know he disagrees clearly, and that's fine. He knows his system better than I do. But do you subscribe to the notion that how I feel is a guy who knows his system and it's so unique, so specific, I think it doesn't bob up with me. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why someone who has such a specific system wants so many people that are not the masters of one, and that he'd rather have the jacks of all trade that are never going to be great at doing any of the specific things that his system requires. And so I don't understand why someone who has such a specific system wants a group of players that are no masters at any of the things that those elements of, as in the positions, dictate, if that makes sense.
Well, this comes back to the point of some people's opinions, right? Where, Ange, listen, don't hate the guy, don't know the guy, can't make an opinion of him. I can just, decide what I feel about his managerial style or what he's doing as a manager. It comes back to the point of when he says, I signed off all these players, or these are all my players I've brought in. I'm still of the opinion that most of the signings that we've made, bar a couple, are Tottenham signings. They're not his signings, because we've all seen, we've had the conversation about Maddison and how we think that this system stifles him. He had every opportunity to see the way that Maddison plays and know that he's not going to fit in there. So say, no, I don't want him. That's not what I want from a player. Mm-hmm. You can obviously see that he's not getting played as much. And even Maddison, and I harp on about this a lot, Maddison is the words have come out of his own mouth that Ange does not coach players, right? He does not coach players. He doesn't even tell players when they're doing well. He was on a channel or on a completely different show where they asked him questions about Ange, and his reply was, I don't know what he thinks of me. The fact that he starts me in the team tells me everything I need to know. Right. Now, since then, Maddison's barely been starting. It's Kulu that's getting in over him, which goes to show that Ange believes that Kulu's the better player for his system than Maddison is, even though Maddison's output is still one of the better outputs that we've had all season so far, right? His goals and assists, etc. Right? So it's Ange's style over individuality from players and what they bring to the table, right? And I don't think as a group that's going to alienate people. And I think Maddison's already one of the ones that looks like he is not fully invested in Ange.
Completely agree.
So for me, do you know what? I this whole question about sacking, I'm Ange out, right? I don't think long term he's sustainable without a massive amount of investment in him getting exactly who he needs for his style. I just don't think that's available to us as a club. To your point about should we sack him now or later? I mean, I saw the conversation earlier and I was watching it, right, about whether we should get rid of him now. Should we give him the Liverpool game, etc., etc.? I'll give you my opinion on that. I've seen the way that he plays. Based on what he said, he doesn't change and he's very stubborn in his ways. So for me, I can only see nothing more than a defeat in the Carabao Cup semi-final by Liverpool because they're just too good. I think if they play let's just call it their B team. But if they play some of their youngsters or some of their sub players or whatever, we may be able to get a result at White Hart Lane, or we might be able to get a draw out of it. But as soon as we go back to Anfield, I think that's a real struggle. That's a real struggle for us to get.
And that to me is also part of the problem. Like I recognise the weakness in my own thesis. And my thesis, I think it's only fair. Like I don't like isn't fair, but I think that if you hold Daniel Levy et al. Accountable for getting rid of Mourinho, you heard the debate earlier. I know Sava disagrees. I'd love to know everyone else's take when I come round to you guys. But I personally think that you can't sack a guy who hasn't been kicked out of the competitions yet. And I worry a little bit that, you have quite a long time between the first and the second leg. And a lot of damage can be done in the league, and a lot of damage can be done in terms of budgetary expense if you are backing the guy. But like you said, if he puts out a B team, if Slot puts out a B team and we get a 2-1 win in the first leg, for example, or a 2-2 or whatever, then on the basis of what I've prescribed, I think that then you have to give him the second leg as well. And unfortunately, therefore, the inevitable might well happen at Anfield, which is their first 11 comes out. You bring back the likes of Diaz, you bring back the likes of Jota, you bring back Nunes, you bring back Salah, and then we end up losing 5-0. But in so doing, you've absorbed the entire January window, the entire next 3 games between those 2 legs. And then you're still where you probably were going to be before the game. And I'm torn by my idea of loyalty to fairness versus pragmatically what's good for the football club. Because I don't disagree with what you're saying, Lee, at all. So I just don't know what the best thing to do here is and what's right.
You're right, and to be fair, I'm actually going to sort of agree with you in your conversation that you had about Mason. Right, if we get rid of him now and bring Mason in,
right.
I'm on the fence about this. I only want Ange out if we've got a competent replacement. If we were to play Newcastle, no, we know that exactly. We know that. But if say we go to Newcastle, they come to us and they give us a hiding, that's enough is enough. Mm-hmm. I don't think Mason would even have enough time, or even the balls to change the way that Ange plays before the game next Wednesday, right? That would be a massive thing to change 3 or 4 days before your next match.
Yeah.
So he'll either go completely massively defensive, or he'll stick with what the guys have been doing in training and hope it works out, which I don't necessarily think that he's competent enough to do it anyway. So I wouldn't want it to happen if it was going to be Mason before a big match like a semi-final. So for me, I think if anything's going to happen, it would be after the semi-final,
which is
I think that would make more sense.
I agree with everything you said, mate. I think we're on the same page on this one. And listen, like I say, I'm someone that's very happy to criticise Daniel Levy on the things that I think he deserves criticism on, and things like risk tolerance, things like forethought, things like planning. I don't think he has any. There's no evidence to suggest that he's going to have anything lined up if he was to get rid of Ange. I'm not advocating for Ange to go, but I think one of the risks of him going right now is that you'd have Ryan Mason in charge, and then nothing improves anyway.
And Sean, I'm going to jump because I can hear my lasagna going off. But I'd say one other thing as well, just to back up your point there. Mm-hmm. It's not just a case of Levy having someone ready to go. The names that are being thrown out there, the Franks, the Areolas, etc., I don't see why any of them right now in January would want to come to Spurs. Agreed. If anything, that would be a summer thing. We can't entice them away because they're doing better than we are. So
and the only real rationale is money, right? And are you going to pay? You're going to give Areola $6 million a year? He's probably getting paid $1 million where he is. There's so much. That's a whole other conversation. Lee, mate, listen. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
I'm going to jump. Thanks, gents.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
See you later.
Just quickly, guys, I'm going to say hi to Jim. How you doing, Jim? Great to see you, man. Lovely to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see you too, mate.
Last couple of games, mate. Jim sits behind me, right against the left at the stadium. So we've always been planning on working together as well. It's great to see you, mate. I'm going to come to Eugene now. Before I do, guys, just a couple of super chats quickly. I think I've done Football Heritage. I think I've done Saba. Listen, mate. Yeah, Saba, from what I can gather from the comments, mate, basically everyone's saying it was a good debate, but I got personal, and that's not really my style. So, Saba, I'll take this as an apology, public apology. I didn't mean to get personal if I did, and that wasn't my intention. Things happen. Dermatron saying, big up Dermatron. How you doing, buddy? Saying, I know Sean for a while, and he is very balanced on his views, and I respect everyone's opinion. I am Ange in and will die on that hill, but Happy New Year. You're dying on the hill of Ange in. That is a large hill to die on, mate. From what I can gather, as I walk through Tottenham after the Wolves game and did that kind of that one take walkthrough, everybody was Ange in. Then the YouTube community maybe and Twitter is a little bit distant from the moderate fans, shall we call them, when it comes to Ange. So you're not alone on that hill, my man. It's a busy, popular hill to die on. And listen, I'm not quite on the hill, probably on the kind of mound, on the mound next door to it. But thank you very much for the super chat, buddy, and I love you, man. Thank you for the support. And Stu Greenhill saying, you summed it up on a previous video, Sean. Is Ange a manager or a coach? Neither for me, but he's Ange in. Yeah, I think he's a philosopher. You know, I think he loves. He likes to do these pre-match talks. Everyone talks about how great he is. The players always say he's an inspirational leader. I don't think he's a manager. He doesn't have the authority at the club to be a manager, and I don't think he's a coach because, from what I've gathered, he doesn't even attend training. He sits in his office and watches it from a camera, and that is a problem for me, if I'm entirely honest. But thank you very much for the super chat, Stu. Eugene, I'll come to you, my man. We started the conversation off with Ange. Lee, I didn't disagree with anything Lee said. I thought it was very reasonable. What's your stance, buddy? What's your stance on it?
You know what? Do I think that Ange is a long-term solution for us? No. Do I want Ange sacked? No. I think, well, the way I approach it, I back every manager for at least 2 years. I just want to see what that person is able to do with the squad. But my issue is, and why I'm down right now, is I look at things from the macro level, not micro level, right? So it could be, silly to say, I don't care much about this season specifically. I want to see a plan from the club. I would rather the club aim high and fail than aim low and succeed. What I mean by that is, it doesn't matter which manager you bring in right now. It could be Ancelotti, it could be Pep. Our ceiling is what? 4th, maybe 3rd, right? So when Ange came in, I'm like, you know what? He's an unconventional manager. It might be a disaster, but I wanted to see the club go all in and take a chance. I'm tired of...
In what way do you mean? In the transfers?
In the transfers. Just saying, you know what? We hired you. We know the way you play, whether we agree or not. If we hired you, we're going to back you. We're going to stick with you for a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
Even when times are tough, we're going to back you and see what happens.
Let me ask you, how does that with... Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me just ask you to develop that for me. So I don't know if you agree with this, but like the general thesis that I've always been by is that you can back a manager with what he needs, what he wants to a degree, but you also have to keep one eye on the reality of the situation, that when you sign players, you sign them on 4, 5, 6 year deals, right. And most managers only last for 18 months. He's obviously outlived his 18-month average tenure, and we're still looking like we're going to back him. However, obviously the club is also has to meet its own requirements of thinking about its philosophy, its program, its purchasing profile. And Ange, is a manager that has a specific system, but also, has also in the past alluded to this idea that he says it 1,000 times. The difference between the very best and the next level down is mentality, not technicality. And so I don't know how you can figure out a player's mentality if you're signing 18-year-olds. You can't possibly know their mentality at that stage, right? So I just wonder whether or not the kind of idea of backing Ange is an impossibility if you're butting heads with the philosophy of the club, which is to go after the best youth, which I haven't got a problem with in principle, but he must have, because he wants the mentality, and I don't think he could possibly know that in the people that we're buying, because they're 18 years old. They haven't had a chance to prove it. Their frontal cortex hasn't even developed until they're 21. So how do you sort of square that circle for me?
So I agree with you, and that's been our issue when we argue whether Ange has been backed or not. Like, my issue is I'm tired of us asking managers to adapt to the players that they have. I could be wrong, but from my perspective, all the managers and teams that had success, managers came in, and instead of adapting to players that they had, they brought in players who fit their system. You can look at Klopp, Pep, whoever, right? And I agree with you. So, and that's kind of why I'm confused a bit, or why I'm frustrated, is the players that we're bringing in don't really fit Ange's style. So we're saying, you know what? we're bringing in players for the club. So we have Lang, who needs to think long term about types of players that the club, needs. But if you look at Madison, if you look at Johnson, like they don't really fit what Ange is trying to do. Then you also look at Porro, Udogie, Son, other players that in isolation are good players, but again they don't fit what Ange is trying to do. So he's trying to.
Those players were signed before Ange got here, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So when people say, "Well, Ange spent 350 million, he's been backed," like it's not that simple, right? So that's why I'm frustrated, because again, if the club hired Ange, I want them to get him the players, not even the names. Like there was a rumor that Ange wanted Gallagher. Obviously, there's no way Gallagher would come here, but the club knew the profile of the player that Ange wants. As a profile, Neto profile, Gallagher profile, we did not bring in any of those types of players. So that's why my issue with recruitment is like, what are we doing? It's like with Man U when Amarim came in and nothing changes, and the issue is the players. The recruitment has been shocking. The players are shocking. So if we sack Ange, we bring in a mid-table manager. We're going to ask that manager to adapt to players.
Problems, right? It's going to be interesting. Exactly. That's exactly why I'm not ready for the next yet. I've always said he's the guy before the guy. I think this comment from Gary here. Shout out to you, Gary. I didn't know this, but I think he's suggesting that Ange alluded to the same idea, that even Ange admits he's the guy before the guy. And that's why I think that the guy before the guy, the guy that is the guy after the guy, is too soon before that guy is ready, because the players haven't matured yet. So that's why I lean towards hanging around. But I share your concern, Eugene, and on that basis, I do blame the club for, if you wanted a project guy, then you should have gone and got someone who's maybe as quote unquote unknown as Ange, but someone who's got a history, a track record of developing youth. And I don't think Ange has got that in his repertoire necessarily. I might be wrong on that one. But you just say that, my man.
Last thing. So in American sports, right, usually we have a general manager or an owner. They come in and they talk to the fans. There's, they usually say, what, next 5 years, we want to do A, B, C, and D. So if the club comes out and says it's going to be a youth movement, or we're going to challenge, or just tell us fans what the plan is.
That's a blueprint of what we've got to live by. Yeah, I hear you.
Exactly. And I think that
he's awful at doing that, isn't he? He only ever comes out when the sun is shining.
Exactly.
And I think we got our club back after 10 games, and then you don't hear from them again.
And if fans would know what the plan is, at least I think it would alleviate a lot of anxiety about what the club is doing. Because right now it's confusing. We're spending money sometimes, other times we're buying kids. So like, is it a youth movement or what are we doing? We're not bringing in any elite players. We're cutting our wage bill, but then we're saying we want to compete. So
yeah, you're right.
So what is it?
Well, I don't know what it is. I think that's the perennial question with Tottenham Hotspur, isn't it? What are we doing exactly? We're trying to act like a big team, but we don't really deliver. We also try and act like we're a kind of youth-centric approach, but then we don't hire managers. It is always the philosophical pivot has gone in the right direction. The pendulum has swung towards where I want it to be. But I don't think it's landed in the right direction. Ryan, let me say that, Eugene. Ryan, let me bring you in, my man. Thanks for I know you were first on, so I should have probably started with you. But sorry. Either way, mate. Let's continue the conversation, buddy. I saw you shaking your head there as Eugene was saying some of his things. I think you're Ange out, aren't you? So what? Am I right?
Well, I don't know really how that made you work that one out, but yeah, personally, but yeah, I'm definitely Ange out. Look, to be honest, right, Eugene, like this isn't a personal attack. It's me attacking what your views are when it comes to some of your points on this. Sacking Ange now and getting Mason in for 6 months as an interim would be better than what it would be keeping Ange anywhere near this. I want trophies, though. Look, I want trophies, but we're not going to get that with Ange. With Mason,
are we going to get that with Ryan Mason?
Yeah, as an interim manager, yes, I think we could, because he's got better. He's got a better win ratio than Ange, for starters. And sorry, I have got a bit of a cold too. That's why I'm having to stop. But yeah, so yeah, it's got to be Mason in charge for the next 7 games because he's got a better win ratio.
What is that? Is that? Look, I mean, he has got a better win ratio. Let's be honest. Like, I mean, Ange's win ratio is horrendous, but I would also make the argument that Ange's win ratio is what it is because of the circumstances in which he's found himself, and not directly because of his system of football. Maybe it is indirectly, maybe, but also if Ryan Mason inherits this particular crop of the injury list, I don't make the argument for anyone. That's why I say I'm not necessarily on board Iraola or anybody right now. I don't know what changes. If anyone else walks into that team tomorrow morning and has to put out what he's got options in front of him to choose from against Newcastle, I don't think Ryan Mason or even Sir Alex Ferguson at his peak could necessarily get a tune out of the potential out of the players that we have in this particular environment, this particular circumstance. Now, hopefully it will alleviate over the next couple of weeks or months when players come back. But are we guilty here of Ryan, thinking that, that Ange should be a magician, that any other manager can suddenly just figure out a team and a tactic that's going to be able to get past some of these clubs that we've got to compete with in the next few weeks, with the fact that we don't have any centre-backs, the fact that we don't have anyone but 18-year-olds to pick from in several different positions? Are we being a little bit harsh maybe on the kind of the dice that have landed the way they have for Ange? Or are you just saying, nah, Ange isn't good enough? That's it.
No, right. I can see it from your point of view, right? But then that comes to the board at that point. But Ange is not good enough, full stop. He's tactically incompetent. He is. To me, he's tactically incompetent. Personally, and I don't care if I get hate for this or not. I really couldn't care less.
Don't worry about the hate, buddy. There's always going to be someone that disagrees with you in the comments. So, that's just part put yourself out there. Forget about it. But it's
so to be honest, right? Because
there's a lot of people that agree with you, Matt. A lot of people that agree with you. I was on a show earlier on Sava, right? Everyone on Sava's channel in the audience, they all universally, basically, most of them, fundamentally think that Ange is out of his depth. I don't.
Yeah, personally, that's what I think.
But personally, go on.
Yeah, personally, yeah, right? I think he's so far out of his depth, right, that he's got no chance of winning anything because these tactics are too much. We're losing defenders, right? But look, going on about that situation, right? You can't blame Ange for that, really, because that's where, especially when it comes to the market, you can't blame Ange fully for that. You can blame him for signing off and being a bit of a yes man, yes. But what you can't do is you can't blame him for not having anyone else coming in. We should have kept hold of Ashley Young, Phillips. Sorry, I don't know why I've got Ashley Young on the brain. Ashley Phillips. We should have kept hold of him. He would have been getting played a lot now. He would have been absolutely. He would have been being played.
A break clause. I think we have a break clause in the loan deal that we can activate if we want to. But I personally don't want us to do that. I think that you send people on loan for a reason, and if they're doing okay on loan, I think you should leave them where they are, and I think you should find other things. If he wasn't good enough to be part of our squad at the start of the season, then a club like Tottenham, who do have the resources to go into the January market, I think should be able to use those resources. I don't think necessarily you sign players. For example, I don't think there's any benefit at all in signing someone like a Alderete from Getafe on a 4-year deal because you didn't want him earlier, but now you do because you've got you're papering over cracks. I think that sort of thing is madness, where it leads to short-term gain, long-term pain. But that said, I think you can do better deals in the loan market. You can pay; they're expensive, but you can pay the fees and get someone to come in who can do a job, like a Milan Skriniar for me. Why would we allow him to go to Galatasaray without fighting for that guy's signature? I don't know. Listen, Ryan, stay there, my man. I'm gonna move the conversation forward. You've not said anything that's crazy at all. I think your point is very valid. I personally just don't think that it's not one that I share, that Ange is entirely out of his depth. I think there are some.
Sorry, Sean. Can I just say one more thing on the whole situation with this before you move on? Right, yeah. We haven't got enough competition at the back or in midfield because quite clearly, and that's down to Levy. That's all I've got to say.
Again, I had this argument earlier on. Maybe I was too vociferous with it, but if you have 4 centre backs at the start of the season, Ben Davies, Radu Dragusin, Van De Ven and Romero, I don't know how many more centre-backs you can have just in case you have the off chance that 4 or 5 of them all get injured at the same time. I think you have to shake hands with reality that if you are going to all have just a compounding effect of injuries at the same time in the same place to the same people, you're going to have a gap there, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect Tottenham to have 75 defenders just in case 74 get injured. I personally think you can't do it because there's just rules around squad cost and squad numbers. But I understand where you're coming from, Ryan, that you maybe could have had someone better coming in, or maybe that the injuries are a consequence of over the top training. Those things we can talk about. In fact, Adrian, I'll bring you in on this one right now. Let me see what your stance is, mate. And thank you for being patient. Listen, Ryan thinks that we don't have enough squad depth in certain areas. I make him right about the midfielders, by the way. I think we've got too many eights, not enough variety. But in terms of the centre back role, I just don't think that you can make an argument we should have more.
I think a lot of the complaints about the centre back now are because, we've got 4 injured. No one have been screaming for centre backs when they're all fit. This is the difference, It's just Ange has been dealt a bad hand. He's been very unlucky with injuries, right? We've got 4 out with hamstrings, 2 out with fire injuries, Vicario and ankle. I forget the other one. There's only 4 hamstring injuries there. But in midfield, we don't have consistency in our midfield players. That's the problem. Bissouma's not consistent enough. Bentancur looked to be coming back to his pre-ACL best, and then he got that 7-match ban. Sarr last season was easily our best midfielder. Mind you, he was never suspended, I don't think. And this season, when he was given the opportunity, he's played well. He's dipped a little bit, but he's a kid. He's 22, right? And to me, I like the kid, right? Bissouma I would get rid of. I'll just get rid of him straight away. But there are others I would get rid of. I'd get rid of Richalison. I'd get rid of Werner as well. That's just to start with. But this is not going to happen now because we need every man. We're manning the lifeboats at the moment with this team, right? We're not down to the bare bones. We're down to the bone marrow. I mean, and most people could pick this team. Most people could pick this team that's going to play against Newcastle. And as regards with the Ange in or out, I'm fully Ange in. And my reason is I don't think he's been dealt a fair hand. I think fate has been a bit tough with Ange. If you go back to the first season, he loses arguably the best striker in the world. We come flying out the traps, win 8, draw 2. It's still a record in the Premier League. Then VDV gets injured, right? Maddison's ankle goes. Bentancur gets done by Matty Cash. Romero has 1 suspension. Bissouma has 3 suspensions. Players go away on international duty. And where did we finish? 5th. We finished 5th. I think he did very well to finish 5th. And that shows now. So he's not a mug.
The argument against that, though, Adrian, is the fact that we were set up to finish 2nd after the 11 games, and we lived off of those first 26 points for the rest of the season. And as the rest of the teams figured us out, we were the benefactor of the initial period when no one knew who we were.
Well,
and we haven't got that luxury this year. That's
you live off 24 points. Is that on your mind when you're playing games that come after that? I think you're just playing to win every game and see where you are. We had a good chance of finishing top 4, another win maybe, or winning a bit. I forget now. We'd have got it. This season, I think he's faced bigger problems than last. We've had 10 out at one stage, 9 out the other week. Now we've got 8 out and a suspended Bentancur. I mean, if it was the system, I mean, when people talk about the system and adapting to the system. Sorry?
Bentancur's suspended again.
Was it this? It's for this game, isn't it? Because he's got 5 yellow cards.
Well,
he picked up the yellow card, so he's got 5, so he can't play.
Yeah, he's suspended.
Right, so he can't play, right?
I didn't know that. That's obscene.
So now we lose. I mean, how many teams would lose their 4 centre-backs and their number 1 goalkeeper and do well? And we've had
and the fullbacks, right?
and now Udogie's got hamstring, right? So it's 4 hamstrings. You can argue about how these injuries come about. I think they're a combination of things, And then you look at the start of this season, he wasn't back fully in the transfer window. Under Johan Lange, we brought in Solanke, who's done well. I mean, we brought in Gray, Bergvall, and Odobert, right? Odebert's out. All right, Gray's doing better. Believe it or not, for fans that don't know, he's made 21 appearances in this team now, and he hasn't been at fault for virtually anything. So I think he's now definitely a proven squad player, not necessarily a first 11 player, but a proven squad player. The other 2, we've seen more of Bergvall, and we haven't really seen hardly anything of Odobert. I think he's been judged a bit too harshly on these 2 seasons. It makes me wonder what he would do with a fit squad. I know squads are going to suffer injuries here and there throughout a season, but to suffer 10, 9, and 8, and to get through last season, He's not clueless. You don't manage in football for 27 years or whatever, and you're clueless. He'll know
definitely not clueless, but I guess the question comes down to whether or not he's stubborn, whether or not he's naive, whether or not he thinks that there's things that he got away with at a certain level, he can get away with at a higher level in life.
Sean, I look at it this way, right? Imagine like he decides to bend the system and he goes into a training ground with the players. What are they going to think when he spent 18 months trying to install?
I agree with that. That therefore is the hill that's is it worth dying on? You know, that to me is a problem. When he says, like, I've said this for ages, the reason why he won't change is because he can't change. Not only because he hasn't planned for a plan B, but also because he's made this ego-driven narrative around it's who we are, mate. And then if you were to then sort of pivot away from that to any level of meaningful amount, then it looks like everything you've been saying is all for, you know,
the birds.
I'm not sure if that's but I mean, sincerely, when you make that rod for your back, you live by the sword, die by the sword, and sometimes there was no need to get in a sword fight in the first place. Like, you didn't need to do it, and I feel like whether or not it's a part of like brand Postecoglou, because he knows that he's not going to be at Tottenham in 24 months' time, and there's somewhere else after that he wants to go to, and that doesn't necessarily quite sound so appetizing if he has yielded and conceded that it's who we are, mate, isn't really that much of a thing. If he changes too much away from his ABs and C's of who he is, and like I say, it's a sword fight you don't need to be in. You didn't need to do it, but he did it anyway. And now we're at the place where you have to like get on board it or don't.
I think there's 3 contributing factors why results have fallen off without putting the system in it. 1, we didn't do enough work in the summer transfer window. 2 were the injuries, and 3. What have the injuries done to the rest of the squad? They've tired them out. The teams look knackered. I was looking at all the games we played earlier, the highlights of all the games we played earlier in the season when we were fresh. And when we look fresh, we look good. And we were winning games. Now we're tired. Even that Liverpool game, the worst result, 6-3, right?
Yeah.
We had no energy. We went forward. There was no sort of impetus in our play and all that. There was no runners, no nothing. I mean, we're completely flat. And tiredness, you can't keep playing 11 out of 12 or 13 players. And what you're going to do is what's happened. Udogie's played more minutes than anyone else this season, and now he's picked up an injury. And this is going to happen because the squad depth isn't good enough, right, at this present time. So we're picking up these injuries. I want to see more of Ange Ball. I always said I was going to judge him at the end of the second season, but he's had more injuries this season than last. So people can disagree with me. I mean, if you don't like the system, you want him out, or like Ryan does and others do, fair enough. I get that if you don't like the system. I don't like 5 at the back. But all systems work and all systems fail, guys. And when it works well. When it's failed well. It's just that we've gone off. He had a 58% win ratio before we had a lot of these injuries. That was better than Mourinho, right? If you go back and look to his highest win ratio, it was 58%, right? And it was good. And it's fallen away. So why? Because of Ange Ball? Because of injuries? Because of tiredness? If people say that,
Adrian, I think you made some really great points. But once again, no disrespect to you, but I think we are guilty of always looking internally towards the rationale for why things are the way they are. I think it's the same with Daniel Levy. Mr. LH here says this channel has turned into make excuses for Daniel Levy channel, and Levy loves it when the attention is on manager and Sean loves the titillation of a new manager. I mean, in this particular show alone, I've already spoken to a monster Levy outer in Lee Enigma, and we both agreed that Daniel Levy is guilty of many sort of misdemeanors with regards the lack of attention to figuring out what's next after what we have and having planned there. And we both agree that it's a scary thought process that we thought that maybe Ryan Mason would be next. So I don't know why you think I make excuses for Daniel Levy, mate. You obviously don't watch the channel very often because
you can't conflate Levy with Ange, can you? I mean, you can't.
This is more than that. I think that on this channel, unless you're just people like him, he probably just drops in every 3 months. He just assumes that I'm going to be always defending Daniel Levy, but that's just not the case. And Adrian, stay there, mate. I'm gonna move on to Sam here and also to Jim, and then once we get that, then we can go to an all-rounder, guys. Just jump in wherever you want, and I want to talk about the next stage. Obviously, is what we're going to do in January to resolve some of these issues that we all think we're obviously going through right now. How do we do that? What does that look like? So we're going to speak to Sam first. Sam, welcome to the show, my man. I think it's your debut, is it, buddy?
Oh, that's
It is my debut. I had to get the same jumper as you, Sean, just to so I fit in a little bit.
130 notes, right? It's expensive, but it's a nice one, isn't it? It's a nice little jacket, isn't it?
I went like this as I paid for it. I just pressed the button.
Same. But that's you shouldn't do that, right? Because if you're doing it online, but if you go to the club shop, you've got to look up. You see all these people with their hands in the air saying, "I'm free. I'm ready to take your money." That tills that kind of ecosystem that they have in that club shop is absolutely phenomenal. I wish they could do the same thing with the beers at halftime, but that's something that Daniel Levy has to work on. There you go, Mr. LH. There's another criticism of Daniel Levy. For someone who enjoys the beers, I have a massive problem with the ability to get beers during the stadium and not have to miss any football. Sam, listen, man, I have absolutely thank you very much for joining the channel, man. Thank you very much for stopping by. I have no idea what your stance is on any of these things, but right now let's talk about Ange Postecoglou, Ange Ball. How do you feel about it, mate? Are you on board? Are you questioning it? Are you doubting it? Are you patient, impatient? What's your thoughts?
So at the moment, I'm still Ange in, but it's one of those ones where the whole of the ball is not over the line in leaning towards Ange out, right? Yeah,
I'm with you on that one. Nicely said. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that for about 10 minutes. So so I go back to those first 10 games, right? I've never really been fully behind Ange. I kind of am one of these fans that kind of I'll roll with the punches, right? Maybe that's what Daniel Levy likes because he never seems to, have a backup plan anyway. He just sort of takes things how they come and we'll deal with it after the fact, right? But in those 10 games, everyone, big up, Drew. In those 10 games, everyone was saying, "Oh, we're amazing, we're this, we're that," but there were a decent number of those games where we got away with murder. The one that really sort of comes in my mind is the United game where we beat them 2-0 at home and Pape scored his first goal. They had like 20 shots in the first half in that game. And we stuck in there by the skin of our teeth, more for luck than skill, and we ended up nicking the game. And there was a few games, I think about the Sheffield United game. We nick it late on in the game. I know that we were the better team in that game, and maybe we were the better team in a lot of these games and deserved the win overall. But they were very nervy, and it never fully. I was never fully convinced by the style of play. And I'm one of these people that, and I've harked on about it for ages, that the system for me does my nut every single time.
What sort of football do you like to see in an ideal world? Were you a Conte man, a Mourinho man, a Poch man? What sort of football did you like?
Well, so I started watching Spurs basically just after we won the last trophy. So I'm one of these fans that's seen fuck all, right? I've seen good football at times, but I've experienced nothing.
2008. So 2008, you became a Tottenham fan.
Well, so my family is all Spurs fans, but I'm 25, so
yeah, right. But I'm just thinking. So 2008, we won the trophy. Then the next year, Ramos got 2 points from 8 games, and then you would have, if you dialed in, then you would have been the recipient of Harry Redknapp, right?
Yeah, so Redknapp was kind of the first manager that I really remember, and everyone
talks you dialed in at the right time, bro. That was some unbelievable stuff. Harry Redknapp brought us all back to life, buddy. That was sensational.
Yeah, 100%. And then we signed players like Ryan Nielsen and Louis Saha.
Yeah, but we also signed players like Luka Modric, Gareth Bale, Berbatov.
Yeah, but see, that was still probably a little bit too early for my time to like really have appreciated those players, right? You're just going with your dad and whatever.
Yeah.
I do remember these players playing, but like I don't remember like sort of when Gareth Bale was brought in. I don't remember him much as a left back, if I'm honest.
Neither do any of us. We saw about a month and a half of it, and then Harry Redknapp went, no. Once we get that monkey off your back about not being able to finish the game with the 3 points, then after that we're going to put you up, advance you a little bit more. Mate, you joined at the best time. Best time. It's been great. For Harry Redknapp forward, you didn't have to suffer Andre Villas-Boas. You didn't have to suffer the guy who was bringing out what was his name? Who was the guy, the Swiss guy who took out his bus pass? What was that guy's name? Back in the day, come on, guys. Adrian, help me out here. Who was the guy who took out his
Christian Gross?
Christian Gross, yeah.
Yeah,
you missed out on all the shit, mate. You came at the right time, buddy. Don't be using that as an excuse. You came at the right time. That's ludicrous.
Well, yeah, you say it's the right time, but what have we won since then, right? And I've had to watch like terrible United teams win a trophy a season. Admittedly, sort of from when I was about 13 to 17, 18 at school, I didn't have to deal with Arsenal fans because they were all hiding.
You missed the Arsene Wenger era as well. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
No, I saw like the end, sort of the more of the end of the Arsene Wenger era. Like I've seen them win a few trophies and that, but for the most part,
you had City or Chelsea to choose from, and you chose Tottenham.
Well, I didn't really have a choice. This is the kind of thing you're born into, right?
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But I mean, look, I kind of lost what I was talking about. I think it was the system.
Right, my bad, man.
So you were asking, was I Jose? Was I Conte? No. And I was a season ticket holder for quite a long time. We stopped it sort of the season as Ange came in because it's expensive. It's expensive as hell. And a few other things that the club weren't helping. I go with my granddad, and like it's difficult for him to where we were sitting, and they weren't helping. So we decided, it's so uncertain. They didn't want to They didn't want to change the season ticket renewal until after we got a manager. So we just didn't know what was going to happen, and we just decided, fuck it, we'll just go when we can. With Conte. It got to a point where I genuinely couldn't bring myself to go. Like, I think we played Crystal Palace on my birthday and we ended up beating them 3-1 or something. But that was like the only game in that stretch that we won. And I genuinely, I couldn't bring myself to go to watch Spurs on my birthday because I just had this horrible feeling that we were going to lose and it was going to ruin my day.
Did we lose?
So, no, we won. It was like the one game that we did win, typically.
Yeah.
But
never bet against your team, man. Never bet against your team.
Exactly. No, I still watched it, but like I didn't go to the game because I live in Southwest London, so it's a trek to get up to Spurs. But
tell me about it. I'm down.
But with Ange, when he came in, of course, I was happy to see attacking football. But I could never get behind the inverted wing backs, right? I think that's the one thing I really can't get behind. Maybe because we don't have the right players to do it. But I just think we a lot of our faults, I think, going forward would be sorted out if you played Destiny and Porro to their strengths, which is why we originally brought them in, right? They were wing backs that bombed on and put crosses in.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, Porro did really well against us when we played Sporting in Europe, which is basically why we signed him.
Yep.
And I think that Ange gets a lot of praise when he, people say, oh, you say Ange never adapts. I don't think he does adapt. I think the game is dictated to a way that we have to, like, we're forced to change the way that we play. When teams come at us, like in the City game where we win 4-0, City had all the ball and basically penned us in, and we played on the counter, which under the Poch days was our style of play, right? And it yielded good results.
Dan, you're absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on, mate. For me, I've said this for months. There's no team that can benefit more from an individual pivot to a different system. Like, that's not forced. It was against City. It was forced against City. But like a directional travel pivot that comes out of the blue, whereby right now, it's so easy for every manager to go, oh, we've got Tottenham on Wednesday, we've got Tottenham on Saturday, or whatever. If we've got a game before then, we can spend all of our time worrying about that because we don't have to really worry about whether Tottenham play version A, B, or C. We know what they're going to do. So the SWOT analysis is easy to kind of take advantage of. And we know that we don't do that. Against City, we were forced to do something different. And the old school Conte ball version of us came out. And we're still very, very good at doing that. Even this system, when we have to, we can pivot. And we've got those players that can smash it. And I've always said that I just think that Tottenham, if you do it just once, if you surprise everybody just once with an unusual, even against the low block team, right, where you expected that they know that, just like a Nottingham Forest, for example, that we come up against. If we did something different in that game, just once, then from not only are you going to benefit in that game immediately by the other team going, oh shit, Tottenham aren't doing what we thought they would do. But on top of that, going forward, every next manager you're up against can't then rest on their laurels and prepare for the normal Tottenham version that they expect to see. They have to dial into the back of their minds. There's a chance that they might do what they did against Nottingham Forest, or there's a chance they might do what they did against Fulham. And therefore, they have to then dedicate more of their time to the potential of Tottenham's plan B, to the potential of Tottenham's plan C. And the absence of doing that, it has so many benefits for the opposition and so few for us. But if you do it just once, there's no team that could benefit from having that potential plan B, even if you don't necessarily use it again very often. Just the fact that you've done it once means that every other team has to dedicate some time towards preparing for it. And that means that their preparation for plan A has to be diluted. And I think that that's such an unnecessary... you're handing over just like percentage points in preparation value to the opposition that don't need to happen. I don't know if you agree with that, Sam, or not.
No, I do, and I think that some of the biggest marks against Ange's like managerial career at Spurs is some of the comments that he's made. Right, like after that Chelsea game where the players were clapped off the pitch, and they said, oh, it's not really a conventional way to play with 9 men to keep going for it, and he said, I could have 5 players on the pitch and I'd play the exact same way. And then you have managers like Gary O'Neill who come out and do like a 15-minute analysis of exactly how to play Spurs that every manager in the Premier League and world football who's going to play Spurs has bookmarked in their YouTube. And they whip it up every time they play us, and it's the same thing pretty much every time. And that stubbornness is why I am frustrated with Ange. Look, I get that he's got his philosophy. He's been in the game longer than I've been alive, right? And I'm not saying to him, you have to change. I just want tweaks. And people always say, like, oh, he does tweak it. But as I just said, I don't think he does tweak it. I think that game state dictates how we play. And he's not a coach or a manager. He said himself he likes the players to come and play or influence the game how they see fit, right? He gives them kind of a framework to work in.
Abdication of responsibility of the specifics. You stick to the framework, but how that works out is over to you. That asks a hell of a lot of 11 under 21 or under 24-year-old players to have to figure out what that means in real time. That's a problem for me.
Exactly, and just sort of because I appreciate Jim's been waiting a long time, so I don't want to speak for too long. But the Lee.
Jim's going to get his 15 minutes more, and then we're going to get
no rush.
Lee said...
I thought you're okay with that, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely fine, mate. No rush at all. Take time, Sam.
No worries. Lee said about bringing Ryan Mason in, right? And would Ryan Mason have the cojones, effectively, to change the system, how the players have been playing under Ange in a 3-day period before the next game or something, right? And this is not me saying that I, want to sack Ange and bring Ryan Mason in. Although I'm not one of these people who thinks that Ryan Mason is just a club lapdog. And, he's the one who's sort of in the back of the dressing room taking notes. James Maddison said this, Daniel. And, Ange doesn't quite believe in what you're saying, Daniel.
I love you said that, mate. I love you said that because I think that is actually the way that he is interpreted by a lot of people that look at the club and have problems. They think that he's just a part of the furniture and therefore part of the problem. I'm not sure that's fair. I agree with you on that one.
I think we've got a culture of scapegoating, right? And I think we've had it for a very long time. But I think that once one person sort of brings out this narrative of certain players or certain coaches, it's very hard for them to shake it. It's like when you hear things about players like Jed Spence, you say, oh, he's got a bad attitude. And then everyone who comes in, anytime he doesn't get played, it's like, well, he must not be doing well in training. He must not be showing the right attitude for Ange to pick him or this or that. But with Ryan Mason, I think that he would, and again, this is not me saying I want Ryan Mason to come in, and I wouldn't sack Ange unless you had a ready replacement to come in and take over that's not just a stopgap like a Stellini or something, right? But I think Mason would kind of go back to, he's had the benefit of working under so many managers at Spurs, right? He's seen a lot of different systems. Mm-hmm. And I think that he would go back to almost a bit of a Pochettino system where you've got your conventional back four, you've got 2 players that sit in front of the defense. They're not necessarily defensive players. You know, maybe you have one sort of ball breaker to be in there to break up play. Maybe that's Bissouma for argument's sake, and then you have someone who's a little bit more flamboyant on the ball, willing to take it forward. That's your Bentancur. And then you have James Maddison sitting in the 10, or Kulu sitting in the 10, and whoever on the wings, right? With how we used to play with Eriksen, Dele, Son, Kane.
Yeah.
And I think that the players. Lee said, we've been training the players to play the specific way. Can they even go back and play that way? I think they can, because I think that is the kind of football that you're raised on. Maybe not that specific system, but telling a fullback, stop going into midfield and stop playing attacking mid and actually play basically as like a winger, a defensive winger. Which, again, as we said, Porro and Destiny, those are the kind of things that would have attracted us to them in the first place. And the rest of it, I think, kind of all fits in. We've got Dominic Solanke, who is a box striker for me, right? He scored a lot of goals getting in between the posts, which is what a lot of pundits used to say about Dele Alli, saying, the way that he gets in between the posts and puts the ball in the back of the net. You can't really teach that. But we don't play to any of our players' strengths. And I think that the fullbacks would be a major way to actually play to our strengths. And maybe you might see Solanke actually getting a bit more amongst the goals. Not that I think he's been bad. And I think he works incredibly hard for the team.
I think he gets so much of a hard stick there, Sam. But I don't disagree with what you're saying, mate, about the playing to your system, playing to your strengths. I don't disagree at all. And I guess it goes back to the old age question, Jim. I'll bring Jim in now, if that's okay, Sam, and then we'll go back on. Around, should a manager work with the squad he's got? Should a manager ask the squad to work to what he wants? It's a perennial question at Tottenham. It's a perennial question across the fan base. You're seeing it right now with Ruben Amorim, right? Around is he right to do what he wants with regards to playing the back three and the fullback system, when obviously the players just really don't work for that system at United? But the argument, I guess, in favour of it is that's what Amorim wants to get towards, and he needs to obviously trial these players in those positions to see what he needs and what he doesn't need when they finally get around to having, some money, because they're up against FFP and January is a dead rubber for them. But the argument is it better to kind of for the manager to come in and sacrifice everything that he's built his reputation on in order to adjust to what you have? Or is it better for him to demonstrate to the board what he needs by showing that these players are not necessarily the right thing for what he wants for him to play his system, which is the reason why you employed him in the first place? And it's a very difficult one to judge, Jim. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, not just on that question, but obviously, and thank you for your patience, man. I know you've been waiting a long time, and it's great to have you on, buddy. It's great to finally get you on the show, mate. Great to see you.
Thanks, and hopefully see you on Saturday.
You will, 100%.
Good stuff. Yeah, with the whole situation Spurs are in at the moment, I just find it's a very complex situation that people want simple answers to. Because if you can have a simple answer to a complex situation, it helps you cope with it. And we're all really frustrated as the same supporter group. The fractiousness of it is frustrating because ultimately we all want the same outcome at the end of this road. But we all disagree completely as to why we're stranded on this island, confused and no idea which direction to run in, right? And you kind of look at what led. I prefer going back and saying what's led to this point. And I think I don't look at a manager or a specific person at the club and think that one person has taken us to this stage where we're sat in the mid-table and arguing over whether a manager should stay. I see only up until 2 years ago, there's 8 consecutive years of poor recruitment where we abandoned the director of football model because Poch wanted us to, by the way, even though I loved that man. He did make the decision for us to abandon that role if he wanted to stay with us. It was his demand. Our recruitment nosedived after that point in terms of quality, what we were bringing in. Then the new stadium comes, which sees a lack of spending whilst they prioritise that infrastructure. Then you go, okay, we've got a medical team who's clearly, it was overhauled a year ago for a reason. It was struggling before this season as well.
Yep.
Then we had 3 consecutive managers who played anti-Tottenham football, I'll call it. Not anti-football, because they're great serial winners at what they do. It works at certain clubs. But it was never going to succeed in the long term at Tottenham. We just were so desperate to squeeze those drops out of Kane and Son and get that trophy over the line that we desperately needed. And don't forget, we were very excited about some of those managers when they came in. They look rubbish now in hindsight, but I was buzzing about Conte at the time, as an example, and thought he would be able to
100%.
do it, right?
100%.
So I don't think they were all awful decisions in the moment, but they ended up being poor decisions on reflection. And then this will lead to a point of us going, oh my gosh, look at that big mound of smelly feces we've built. How do we fix it? Let's go back to the Tottenham way. So we go and find a manager who can help deliver that. And we go, but you've got a bunch of players that we built on the previous philosophy. And you've got a fan base whose expectations are in line with what we were doing under Pochettino because they tasted it and they want it back. So their expectations are kind of here. And then you've got their patience worn absolutely bare thin because they've had to be promised it will work with Jose, it will work with Conte, it will work with Nuno. So another manager comes in and they go, I'm not going through all this again. I've seen the script. I don't want to see it again. I know how this goes. Can we just move on from this? But in some defense of Ange, I really feel like he's inherited this mess as much as we have. And he's the difference between Poch and Ange and the rest of our recent managers in history is both of them wanted to fix it as much as the fans wanted it to work. Whereas other managers we've had were kind of like, I'm just ticking the box for a couple of years and I'm off. It doesn't work. I'll get another great job. These guys want it to work as much as us, which is why I find even if it's a tiny section of the fan base, the vitriol at the ground that Ange got, as an example, was a real low moment for me when people were calling him a fat whatever. I thought that was a bit of a low moment. That guy's on our side.
Yeah.
So he's had to overhaul 18 players of a 25-man squad in a year. Now, that is bigger than what Arteta did and Klopp did. That is insane. Think back to the players we had: Perisic, Lloris, Tanganga, Dyer, Sanchez, and Ndombele, Lo Celso. And these guys, there's loads of them.
Hojbjerg,
They were Hojbjerg. They were key. Ollie
Yeah.
Skip, Harry Winks. They were key players.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's actually incredible when you think of it, isn't it?
It is. It's had to be. The overhaul's been enormous, and then you go, right, okay, we've kind of got some foundations in place. 7 out of the 10 signings have been pretty damn good. I'd say jury's out on a few of them, and understandable people will go, hey, why did you get Timo Werner in? That was a waste of money on wages. Get that. But most
You're never
have
going to
been
get
pretty
everything
good.
right, though, are you, Jim? Right?
No.
You're never there's always going to be in the pursuit of something bigger. Anyone that thinks it's a linear progress from where you were to where you want to be, it's just madness. Like even the best stocks in the world, the best. I mean, obviously, I'm someone who does that stuff, like shares and stocks and share trading. Like nothing does that. Everything does this, right? Everything. Even the best stocks do that. They
Exactly.
There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be bad periods along the way. As long as you can see some sort of transition. I guess the question though, Jim, I think your summary there, mate, is sensational. Similar to what Adrian went through as well with the kind of historical, the injuries and things that he's had to face along the path of all of that transition. So you've dealt with the transfer transition. Adrian sort of mentioned the hiccups along the road and which of injuries. Right? Both of you make wonderfully important points. I guess the for those that don't necessarily agree, it comes down to that's fine. All that stuff's great, but is a one-track version manager the right guy to go through that process with for the light at the end of the tunnel? How far away is that light?
So on that, this is what I was kind of building up to. Is all this has led to the analysis of the situation being you've got a manager who's got one song in his armory, and when you have to deviate from that or pick up a different instrument, he doesn't know what to do, and it's suicidal football with a terrible defense. But everything statistically actually goes against the narrative. And I was shocked when I was looking up the stats of us away from home, because we've been really poor away from home. We can't lie from that. We've got the best away defensive record in the whole Premier League.
Right.
That is that just goes against every single fibre of what I feel should be the reality of that situation.
That's a fantastic stat, because right now I had this conversation earlier, obviously on Sava's show, and Sava was bringing out stat after stat after stat, and all of those stats you couldn't agree with. And I made the point to him at one point in the argument. I said to him, "Look, you're bringing up things that people have sent you that have clearly got an agenda, right?" And I said that there'll be other stats out there. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there'll be other stats out there that someone could go about formulating things and make the story look entirely different. And that thing you just said then is a wonderful example of that. Right?
And it doesn't mean that our defensive record's good enough, because I think we're very fortunate to have that. The eye test will show you that the stats. If I could manipulate this argument and say, before the injuries, we're the third best home defence. We've got the best away defence. We're creating the most XG. We're actually the best team in the league. Well, we're not the best team in the league. I know that, but I can manipulate stats to fit the situation. But the reality is, Ange's situation is an amalgam of 10 different things, and people take a tiny extrapolation out and they blur out proportion to justify their side of the argument. And it depends which camp they're in. Some people need this to fail because they believe the bigger picture is to lose this war battle to win the war, to change our ownership or something like that. So if we bring in the right manager and get all the right signings, this is disaster because it's longer with the wrong regime that damages us more in the long term in their view. So they'll never agree with you. And you've got people at the same time who will say, no matter what, no matter how big the hill, I am dying on it that Ange can do no wrong. Now that's not necessarily the right thing to do either, that dogma style, like digging in.
Love this, Jim. But you should have been on this channel 2 years ago, buddy.
But yeah, just to, I think like in the last bit I want to finish off is what are people's expectations of success under Ange? And that's another thing, because you hear some people will say, you're arguing with someone who says, my expectation is to win the Premier League. That is where it stops and ends. There's no discussion. I want to win trophies. And other people are saying, what are you talking about? Considering the situation we're in, just to get into the top 4 is where we need to get to. So everyone's got different views on where that is. Now, I kind of feel that for Spurs and a club that has the 6th most revenue in the league and spends about the 5th or 4th most, like you can't expect to be top every year. But if your manager leaves you in a situation where you're going, we're top 4, but unlike the Conte time where Kane carried us to top 4, we've got a squad that can stay there for 4 or 5 years, and we may have won a Europa League along the way. That makes him the greatest manager in the Premier League era we've had. He's won a trophy and established us into the Champions League in a world of Manchester City, and these elite state-owned clubs that didn't always exist and compete with us.
Spot
in the way they did.
on, mate. Could not agree with that 100% more. That's so a breath of fresh air, mate. Jim, absolutely sensational. Finish your point. So
I've got to jump.
I can't help but chime in and say, well done.
No, that's right.
I can't do it. I can't shut up.
I've got to jump anyway. I've woken my son up, but I just want to come on and just say, look, can I understand why you'd want Ange out, or you desperately want him to be in. But I think the worst time to sack him would be after Arsenal, Liverpool, and Newcastle, because given our situation, those games are almost the killer games we're most likely to lose. When those game ends, you get both your centre backs back. You go on to a decent run of fixtures. That's the moment where you say, this is the moment, Ange, I'm expecting to see the improvement. You've had a couple of signings. You've got your key players back. The fixtures have changed. Show us.
Just quickly though, Jim,
why we stuck with you.
Before you go, if you've got 2 more minutes, I've got one more question for you. And by the way, if you get a chance before you do drop, if you don't mind, only if you want to, in the private chat, if you can stick your telephone number, I'd love to be able to reach out to you and add you to the circle, add you to the group if that's okay, if you want to. But the question I have for you, I guess, is I think you brilliantly said just then. The argument, I guess, against play devil's advocate is if it doesn't work out against those 3 teams, as you said, it probably won't. You stick with him anyway. At what point does it require? Like is there any scenario where this season you would be on board with a termination of Ange?
The moment I would say it's time to move on would be if the squad is built around. Now it's built around Vicario, Van De Ven, Kulusevski. I wouldn't even say Son at the moment, even though he's our captain. Like I don't think we're going to renew his contract. So I think once those key players, if they are clearly no longer invested in Ange and he's lost the dressing room, I don't think he can come back from that. But whilst the players are still running through walls for him and sticking with him on this journey, as long as the core of the players that he needs to make this work are, I think we've got to stick with him as well, because no one knows him better than those people around him every day.
Okay, and last, I'll use you as the catalyst for the next. I know you got to go. The catalyst for the next segue, which I'll bring the rest of the guys in. On that basis, I'm guessing you're saying there's no decision making that should happen in the January transfer window that should be at this stage dependent on some idea that he won't necessarily be here in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2, whatever. So you're asking, obviously, for him to get more of what he needs, not just to cover the gaps, but obviously to help him continue that build out of what he needs. And if that's the case, then last question for you, mate. What do you hope to experience over the next 30 days? Do you expect Tottenham to help him? Is it loan deals? Is it? Would you be okay with permanence? And if so, what does that look like, and in what positions?
Well, I'd say 3 of our major January transfer window signings have been technically loans, but they've really been permanent because they all had obligations. And that was Kulusevski, who had an obligation if we met certain sporting criteria, Bentancur and Porro, who were all obligations to buy. And it shows that typically
all successful signings as well, by the way. Yeah,
all very good. So I think my expectation of, given we've got a more elite structure than we had supposedly then, would be to at least bring in 2 players, Bentancur and Kulusevski style, on a permanent basis or with obligations to buy. That instantly elevates the level of the team to the level those guys did. And then I would expect a loan or 2 as cover, because like you touched on earlier, Sean, when everyone's fit, we've got 4 centre-backs, 4.5 if you include Gray. To sign a permanent 5th one is just, when you don't have infinite funds in a PSR and FFP world, taking investment away from other positions we desperately need to bulk up. So I'd say don't go crazy on that front. 2 loans and 2 permanent, I'd be pretty happy with personally in January.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Sorry, what were the positions you'd like the permanent to go with? Would you like
definitely a left back.
Left back. Okay.
Definitely cover of a left back is absolutely pivotal. And I definitely think we need an upgrade. I don't think our wingers are the standard. I don't think they're a top 4 attack force. I don't think they're at all. I think we actually need.
I'd even include Sonny in that right now, to be honest. I probably say it, but I think he's on the decline, isn't he? So it's a bit.
At least 1 winger. You know, you've got Odegaard coming back will be key, but a minimum of 1 winger, a minimum of a left back. And I think we desperately need that defensive midfielder, João Gomez type, who's, when we push up so high up the field, we have that big space behind endlessly. I'd love a midfielder whose job is just to snuff out the ball on those counter attacks.
Yeah, Monster 666. Yeah, his name is
the
Beast, and his number is the number of his name, 666. Jim, Oso Spurs, guys. Listen, I mean, obviously, a massive shout out to Lee from Enigma. I don't know if Lee's got a channel. I didn't get a chance to let him plug. He had to jump off. But I think you can find him on Tottenham Away. So if you enjoyed what Lee said, then go over to Tottenham Away and smash the subscribe. And also, Jim Oso Spurs, right? Is there? I know it's obviously the YouTube channel. Is there the podcast as well? Are you podcasting?
Yeah,
Spotify and things.
Yeah, Oso Spurs. We upload it both on audio and video, but there's more content on YouTube because I do a few vlogs type stuff as well.
Yeah, man. I love your stuff, mate. I'll see you on Saturday for
see you there, mate.
Half time. If you can drop it, if you want to drop your number in the private chat before you disappear, man.
I will do.
I'd love to get your number so I can reach out to you.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks again, Jim.
Cheers.
Appreciate you guys.
Cheers.
What a
see you guys.
wonderful debut on the channel.
Great job, Jim. Great job.
Cheers, guys.
Great job.
See you. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, mate. Take care. I'm sorry for waking your son up. Guys, let's move on. Let's take what Jim said and run with it here. So he's made a plea for a forward, a winger, and a left back. I mean, maybe there's one name there in Patrick Dorgu who could do a little bit of both, right? He's a left back, left wing back, and also a right winger for Lecce. Really super talented player. Tottenham have been linked with him, and there's, I mean, I don't know what. Obviously, I never know what the veracity of the links are, but there's something there surely for us to get hold of. I'm a big fan of the player. It looks like a real talent, but there's also other players out there that I think are massively suitable for what we're looking for. Jim mentioned about that need for a monster 6. Now, this is a name that I mentioned in yesterday's update that I did, Maxence Kakare. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this player. Plays for Lyon. Lyon are basically technically relegated unless they can fix their books between now and the end of the season. It doesn't matter what happens in their performance of the league. They're basically relegated unless they can get the right side. And obviously that right side of that invisible line requires them to sell players. And Maxence Kakare is one such player who is going to go somewhere big. He's a talent, 24, 25 years old. He can do everything. I don't know if you guys watched the stream I did yesterday or watched the show I did, the upload. A real player that I'm a massive fan. I have been for quite a while. He's been linked with Tottenham for over a year. And I don't know how you would think of him. Like I like, Adrian Rabiot, but without the headache, without the mother headache. You could think of like old school Edgar Davids and his ability to pivot and split play and then pop the ball into the channels. He is a real technical beast with his passing. Absolutely love the guy. He's not known necessarily as being the monster 6, but if you got his defensive stats up, which I did in the show, you'll see that he's 91st, 92nd percentile for all of the things you want: tackles, interceptions, anticipations, all those things. He's a player that obviously Daniel Levy can smell it, and I think that is something that we could get on board with. Guys, I want to bring you all back in here, and at this stage we've gone through everyone once. I'm not going to sit here and ask you guys all to participate in 10-minute waits for the next chance to speak. So I'm going to step back and say, guys, where do you want to go? What do you want to see? Centre backs, left backs, goalkeepers, fullbacks generally. Do you want some support for Pedro Porro? What about wing forwards? How about a striker? Does Dominic Solanke need some help? Do we need to get rid of Richalison? How about that monster 6? I'll start with you on this one, Ryan, if you've got any names you want to come out. And then from there, guys, like I say, just jump in, take over, be respectful of each other. Don't do what I did earlier and over-talk people and be a donut. But let's just try and let's just go to a panel now, an all-round panel. How do we go about going from where we are to where we need to be in the next 30 days?
Look, I honestly, I do not. There's two parts. There's two things going on in my head here at the moment, right? There's a part of me that doesn't want any signings brought in because Ange's had too much money. Now, that's the thing that's kind of annoyed me, that we've spent all this money on a load of shit, in other words. And to be honest, I don't think he deserves any more money, and I don't think he should have any more money to spend because I don't trust him. And with a big monster six that everyone keeps going on about, he doesn't play with a six. He doesn't play with a six in the squad. Simple.
Well, yeah, but like I say, someone like a Maxence Kakare isn't really a six, but he has all of the things that you need from someone that can sit back and tidy things up. So Ange doesn't call them sixes, but he still has people in his midfield pivot that are more defensive or more attacking. Like he has Bissouma in there. He would never Ange isn't going to sit there with Kulusevski in the 8 and Pape Sarr in the 6 and Maddison in the 10. He know, even though he might not necessarily call them sixes, he still has two of that kind of double 8 that are players. He doesn't have a defensive midfielder that he thinks is necessarily up there. And like I said to you before, Ryan, and to everybody else, we can't just be buying just for what Ange thinks he wants. We have to always have one eye on what's happening after Ange. And for me, there's not a single manager out there that wouldn't look at that team and say, where is the defensive midfielder? Because I don't know where it is. I don't know. Bissouma's not the defensive midfielder.
Archie Gray.
Well, yeah, well, okay, fair enough. Archie, yeah, good point. Archie Gray could be, yeah, that's what we signed him for. That's a good point, actually. Fair enough.
See, so when it comes down, sorry, go on. Who was?
No. Awkward silences make me feel uncomfortable. Hey. So I finished talking. Ryan, you finished talking. Let's.
I just want to push back.
Go on.
Right now, I got to push back on what you said about Ange having all this money. Look, we spent 350 million, right? For Chelsea, that's like four players. You cannot compare that money to what it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, right? That money isn't that much, especially compared to what teams around us are spending. So the transfer fees alone don't mean anything. But we did cut 40 million in wages, right? That's the biggest thing. So just looking at that transfer number, I mean, 350 is not that much given where our squad is. So did we spend all that money well? That's a different question. But if you look at the big teams, they make a mistake, they sign a player that's not good enough, they come back, they spend more money, right? So that the myth that Ange has been backed with all this money, I don't think it's true. Because honestly, if you look at where our squad is, we basically need at least one player in every position. We need a left back for sure. Everybody agrees. But my argument this year has been that our issue is not the defense. Our issue is on the attacking side. Every game that we lost, almost every game, we could barely score 1 or 2 goals. Right? Sonny looks done. His legs are gone. His explosiveness is gone. We need somebody on the left-hand side. We need a backup to Solanke. Like we still need 5-6 players at least, and we need somebody in the middle as well. Yeah.
Now go on. You're going to go and finish what you're going to say, and then I'll come back.
So I'm saying that, right? If we need 5-6 more players, that's going to be way more than what we already spent, just given the prices currently. So
okay, go on. I thought you finished.
No, I'm done.
Okay, right. Well, look. First of all, it's not 350 million that we've spent. We've spent exactly 400 million, right, over God knows how many transfers. Now, it's been spent absolutely shit, right? We've got someone who I don't even want up front anyway, who I would rather have had in Ivan Toney, right? And Ivan Toney
wasn't the right guy for this. He's not the right profile. As much as I like Ivan Toney as a player, there's a reason why he went over to Saudi, right?
Well, I personally think that Toney would have been a perfect fit for us, personally, over Solanke. But then, hey, that's just an opinion that I can have. Everyone else doesn't have to agree with.
Yeah.
But I personally think that Toney would have been a much better option. And I've heard heard you, Eugene, where you said, no, well, Solanke runs around. Okay, he runs around. Fair enough. But then what's our strikers meant to be doing? They're meant to be scoring goals. They're not meant to be running, tracking back, running forward and doing bish, bash, bosh.
Do you two have a little bit of a history, Eugene and Ryan? Is there like a little bit of...
it's not because... No, do you know what? It's because usually me and him are on Dave Harris's, and he's usually either on before me or I'm on before him. So that's how we kind of...
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. But no, but that's what I mean, Eugene, right? Like, you say that, well, we need to have Tony, we need to have Solanke because he's the right kind of striker for us. Okay, personally, I don't think he is, because what? Running around's okay, but then when he's a striker for a reason, to be putting that ball in the back of the net, personally.
How many goals has he scored, Brian?
You tell me.
10. Johnson's got 11, or it's 10 or 9, 10 or 9 or 10, and Johnson's got 11.
Yeah, look, anyone, to each their own. Ryan, you're absolutely right. Opinions are just opinions. Everyone's got them, right? So no one's wrong. But I personally disagree with you about I disagree with everybody. I had a massive disagreement today about Solanke with everybody on Savage stream. Like, everybody over there universally feels like he's not good enough. It wasn't 65 million quid. And I'm sitting there saying, you know, you find me someone that, when you factor in the English tax, that is a better value for money than a Solanke, given what we need from the sacrificial lamb that the 9 is. And I just, you know, the other guys are welcome to their opinion, just like you are, Ryan. I just sit there, I just fundamentally disagree that Solanke was a bad purchase. I think the guy has offered so much value. He's chipping in now. He's figuring out a way to get on the score sheet. And yeah, maybe he's got a couple of goals in a couple of games where, you know, I think he scored 2 against Southampton, for example. Maybe those things are massaging the numbers, but the system requires the 9 to be less of about me and more of about us. And someone like an Ivan Toney is a me guy. Don't get me wrong; he'll score you the goals within that framework. But is he going to sit there and chase down blind alleys for you? Is he going to sit there and put the pressure on the goalkeeper and the right winger and the left winger? Is he going to do that? No, he isn't. And you know, we've seen the depth, how much of a detriment it is to the team when you see Sonny playing in the 9 and you see someone like Timo Werner and Brennan Johnson playing left and right wing with the James Maddison behind him. The 4 doesn't work at the top end of the pitch. The entire system doesn't work unless you have at least 2, but ideally 3 of that front 4 that are sacrificial intentions within their football work. And that's why you need a Kulusevski. That's why you probably definitely need a Solanke. And ideally, you could make the argument that you need someone other than Sonny on the left, because that willingness to chase down blind alleys, that willingness to go and press and exhaust yourself for the pursuit and the benefit of the team, with the absence of it, means that everything else falls apart. Remember Manchester United, I'm not sure if it was, I think it was the early days of Eric Ten Hag. Was Ronaldo still at United when Eric Ten Hag came to town? He was, right? And Eric Ten Hag tried to implement a 10-man press. And Ronaldo just, not for me. No, I ain't doing that. I'm all about Cristiano. And look what happened, right? If one person doesn't do it, and then you've got Bruno Fernandes, who ain't going to do it either. And then you've got Marcus Rashford, who is never going to do it. It was so easy for every team just to hit triangles. Triangle, bang the other end. See you later, sayonara. And Eric Ten Hag fell by the wayside because of that. But he had to get rid of Ronaldo as a consequence. Marcus Rashford, 400 grand a week. Not going to happen. Even Casemiro gets a second contract, 350 grand a week. He ain't running in triangles. He ain't pressing for days. There's a reason why Manchester United have fallen by the wayside so much. And it's because that team, that ecosystem, that money, that wealth, that unbelievable brand that they built back in the day under the Ferguson era, and they are the benefits of that legacy era, that affords you players who think that they're above anything other than working for themselves. There is a problem. I know people will disagree with me on this, and I don't care. To each their own. But when you start working in the realms of paying players 300 grand a week, with that comes a difficult personality issue where I'm above the hard work. You're paying me that much because I'm the game changer. But it's very difficult to find players that are willing to earn that much who do it at the behest of what's good for them. If it is at the behest of what's good for them in pursuit of what's good for the team. Casemiro doesn't do it. Rashford doesn't do it. Ronaldo never did. And that is why you can if you're trying to do a 10-man press and only 8 of you are working, triangle. See you later. Easy peasy. That is why I'm saying people like Ivan Toney wouldn't have worked. And that's why I'm saying that people that don't understand the value of a Dominic Solanke, I'm not going to go as far as say you don't understand football. I'll go as far as say you don't understand the individual value of what this team needs. And young Jack Burford, came on my channel a couple of days ago and articulated it to absolute perfection. This team doesn't require show ponies. It requires workhorses. And Dominic Solanke is such a player, and we should not understate that value. It's so important.
Right. Well, Sean, just to say, going back to what you were saying, right? Well, it's not really to what you were saying. I think it was more what Aidan was saying. The problem is, Aidan, right? It's to the point where he's only had one good season at Bournemouth. One good season where he scored 19 goals. And this isn't a dig at you, right? This is definitely not a dig at you. But I'm just giving you some of the statistics. He hasn't done it anywhere else. He's done it in the Championship, and he's done it once in the Premier League. 19 goals. And the annoying thing that really annoys me, and it's not just you, Aidan. I've heard this on so many other people who have said the same thing, and they've turned around and they've said, well, but he's a good player. What? Because he's had one good season in the Premier League. Come on, it's ridiculous. He couldn't do it at Chelsea. He couldn't do it at Liverpool. Come on.
In fairness, Ryan, he was brought in because he was the profile they wanted to fit the system. And he's doing it here. He's got 10 goals, right? He's doing it here. And another myth out there, guys, for some of you fans, we should get more crosses into the box to score goals. Well, the stats are it's 1 in 45 crosses results in a goal. And in 150 appearances that Solanke's made in the Premier League, how many headed goals has he got? 5. This is a total myth, this argument about. I'm always looking for interesting facts for the show I do with my other guys, my other 3 admins, that. But I have fans come out with some. They just don't go and look things up. They just spout things without looking up any details about what they're talking about. Which I find a little bit disappointing. Because I think it can lead to like a lot of fake news being spread around the internet, which is it's not going to stop though. I know it's not going to stop. It's just the way it is. But you were right about the transfer window, Ryan, because I think we failed better in the transfer window recently in recent windows, right? But we have spent since the stadium's open 1.1 billion on players. 1.1 billion.
Listen to that stat, and then tell me why it is that the stadium wasn't a game changer. Keep going, Adrian.
Well, of course, when people say it isn't a game changer, Mark's very enig out in my group, and fair enough, he can be what he wants. I ain't bothered. I get on well then. But it is a game changer.
Out, but you can't ignore the reality of the situation.
It's a game changer because one, we needed a new stadium to increase the capacity to compete with other clubs. We're not crooked clubs like Chelsea and Man City, right? We've got oligarchs and sheikhs behind them, right? But what the stadium has allowed us to do is to spend more money on wages and more money on players. Now, I'm not saying we spent it wisely because prior up to Ange coming in, we'd spent something between, I don't know the exact figure, according to the reports you read, it was either 600 to 685 million on 29 players. And we know our transfers have been absolutely shocking, right? But the last few windows, they've improved. We have brought kids in. We haven't brought enough experience in, being Solanke the only one. Like I said, Gray looks like he is definitely a squad player now, 21 appearances now. And wherever he's played, he hasn't let us down. So he
Archie
does.
Gray is going to be a world-class player.
Absolute superstar, right? And so will Mikey Moore. Like so,
as long as whatever's going on with his STD, whatever happened there.
And
he's got to stop kissing the girls, Mikey. You can put all that stuff on hold for a couple of years, bro. Right? You're 16. I know it's tempting, man, but just like fucking put your willy away for a little while and let's get back to football, shall we? Because
you want to be a footballer if you can do it.
Yeah, and I like. I like Dorrington and Phillips. I like them. Phillips 6'4", Dorrington 6'3". But I'm telling you, and they are huge talents. But I'm telling you, I've been keeping my eye on Luka Vastovic at Westerlo. 6 goals in 20 appearances. This guy is an absolute baller. And to me, he's better than those two. Shame is he's not 18 until the 24th of February. So I don't. We can have, if we could get him in this season, I would take him tomorrow. He is that good, mind you. We did pay 12 million for a 16-year-old, and when did Spurs ever do that? And this kid is going to be. And he's the only thing he lacks is a bit of pace.
Who are we talking about?
Luka Vaskovic. He's with Westfield with Alfie.
This guy.
He's an absolute bowler, Sean. I mean,
I haven't followed. Where's he playing? Westerlo. He's playing Westerlo in Belgium.
Yeah, Belgium. He's on loan there with Alfie Devine. You'd think this guy's been playing the game for like 15 years, right? But I could be totally wrong.
That over the head free kick with that over the head bicycle kick is just. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You're 17 years old. You're 6'4". But I mean, look, it looked fantastic.
He's 6'3" to 6'4", but like he's in between. So
wherever he is, Luka, listen, mate. You're a big lump, and that sort of thing. When you land, if you land that badly, you can land on your back, you land on your neck, you could be game over. Please just keep it to the football. You haven't got to do that stuff. You're not that. Flamboyance is great, but come on. We need.
If you want to mention the other kids, Donnelly scored a belter free kick for Orient the other day. Keeley's broke their record for clean sheets there.
Oh, Donnelly's free kick the other day, by the way. Unbelievable.
Craig Matthews is playing well. No wonder the under-21s are not doing well this season. All these players have been farmed out, right?
But that's what you want.
That's what you want. They've got to be tested at a better level. They've got to be tested.
But then that leaves room for the next group to come through, and we'll see how good they are. Obviously, right now they're not quite ready, but it's fine.
Good point, Sean. Because if you look at it this way, if everyone had been fit, would Archie Gray have got the games he's got? No.
I've been saying it, mate. I've been saying this, Adrian, all season. So many people just want to focus on the negatives. There's so many positives. People like Archie Gray are the benefactors of, out of adversity comes opportunity, and for him, he's going to benefit so much from having spent those minutes in the centre back, left back, right back. Yeah. We not only have we got one of the greatest 18-year-olds in English football playing for Tottenham, and don't get me wrong, we paid for it. We paid a lot of money for him, but you've also got a situation where he hasn't embarrassed himself. Has he been sometimes exposed a little bit?
Or was he not looked at?
He's not been out of his depth. Has he been world? No, of course not. He's not there yet. But he hasn't embarrassed himself at left back, right back, or centre back. And all of that exposure, all of that experience is going to pay dividends in 18 months' time. As I say, for the next manager, maybe whether it's Ange or the next guy, whoever, but. Just like I think that human beings are playing a role in the evolution of life, and that we're going to give birth to AI, some sort of thing that's going to be a hybrid of us that will then go off into the universe and fix all the problems with the universe or whatever. And we're going to play our part in that. It might end up being to our detriment, but it's maybe necessary for the universe. I would also say that Archie Gray is going to be a benefactor, and that Ange Postecoglou is playing a necessary role in the evolution of Tottenham Hotspur. The pendulum swung maybe too far, but where it lands next is hopefully going to just stick to the same plan, just dial it back to whoever's the next guy, whoever that is, and he's going to inherit a Vaskovic that's ready. He's going to inherit a Mikey Moore. He's going to inherit a Jamie Donnelly. He's going to inherit an Archie Gray and a Bergvall. That's half your team. That is half your team that we have got that are potentially future absolute tip-top stars. And then you just fit in what we already have around them anyway, which are top-class players. The future is very bright, boys and girls. The future is there's nothing to worry about at Tottenham Hotspur.
I mean, you'd like to think that majority of those players we mentioned will be part of a squad and they'll all make it. Ones that if they don't or they drop off, they'll be sold, won't they? But they won't be sold for $1 million, because there ain't any of those youngsters you wouldn't sell. The price of young players now is risen exponentially, hasn't it? It's gone up. I mean, we paid 12 million for Luka Vaskovic when he was 16 or something from Hajduk Split or something like that. And now we
you could probably sell him if you could sell Archie Gray now. We paid 30, 35 or whatever it was, 40 plus Joe Rodon. Vaskovic maybe doesn't have the English tax, but he's got a massive ceiling. Not just because he needs a massive ceiling because he's 6'4" at 17 years old, but because he is really that good. Anyone that wants to focus on the here and now at Tottenham and they want to focus on the volatility in our results, take a step back, just give a little bit, have a breather. It's the start of the new year. Remember what we've got coming through. it really isn't that bad. There's so much.
But
to be
Sean,
hopeful about.
He has given a lot of young players game time, more than any other manager. Most other managers I've known in the Premier League, the only time they've given young players real game time is when they've had such an injury list, they've been forced to do it, right? Forced to do it so much. All right, Ange's given youngsters game time in Europe and all that. And I've critiqued him for his team selections. We all have. We've all critiqued him for his substitutions, when he gets it right, when he's got it wrong. I mean, you know, I won't defend the indefensible. When he's right, he'll get the praise, and when he's wrong, he'll get the critique, you know? So,
yeah.
But again, right,
Let's
that goes back to
pivot the
communication
conversation.
with the club.
Just sorry, Eugene. I'll let you say whatever you were going to say, but just finish your. I'll let you finish whatever you were just about to say, but I'll use you as the catalyst to get back into, I guess, the question that I asked Jim, and then we haven't really kind of covered. Sam, make sure you get involved as well, and Ryan, make sure you both jump in. Don't sit there waiting to be heard, because you know.
Yeah, but with me, I'm too respectful like that, Sean. I'll wait for everyone else.
Don't be, okay? Because I've had a few. My initial pisshead behaviour earlier on faded away, and now I'm back on the second side, all right? So I'm going to forget. I'm going to overtalk people, and I need you guys to make yourself be heard. But I do want to get back to the kind of the major topic of the day, of the second half of the show, was what do we do in January? It's all great talking about what's coming up in 2025, 26, 27, and we have some wonderful things coming through, but we do need help right now. So where do you guys see us helping the team out, helping Ange out? Eugene, I'll let you start that conversation off, mate.
Yeah, as I think we touched on before, I mean, we definitely need the left back. We definitely need a winger and a midfielder. I mean, we need way more than that, but it's unreasonable in January. So for me, I would just go with those three. We're riding on fumes. Udogie is out, so Spence and Reg are the only option, but Reg is not good enough. So definitely left back. Our attack has no bite. We need somebody on the left-hand side to help Son, and somebody to back up Dom, because Richalison, I want him out.
Would you, Eugene? Would you? I mean, I don't know. I don't know you guys very well, so I don't know whether or not you. I know Adrian knows his stuff about their transfers, but the other three, I don't know what your levels are on. You know, the transfer rumours, on whether you follow European football.
Off and on with me a bit, Sean. So.
Okay, well, look, I mean, chime in if you know a name that you fancy, but Eugene, I'll stick with you. You said that we need a winger and we need a fullback. Patrick Dorgu.
I mean, Dorgu's great. I would love a Robinson from Fulham, but I'm sure he's too expensive. But he's an excellent back. But
how much do you reckon
available.
Anthony Robinson would cost? How much do you reckon he would cost?
Probably 35, 40. I'm assuming.
I'd pay that. I'd drop that in a heartbeat for him. I would too. I say heartbeat. I used the little word heartbeat badly because he's obviously got a heart issue, but I think he's a top draw left back, and people keep telling me he'd fail a medical. How's he going to fail a medical if he plays every single week for Fulham? Like, come on, what are we doing here? I don't understand why that would be the case. If there's truth that he has a hole in his heart, then poor bloke. But it doesn't seem to affect him for Fulham. So, like, I take that risk and use him all day long. I think Eugene. I think Robinson's one of the, and also I think that the American market, right? Like,
exactly.
I know people like cringe and go, "Oh, money, money, money." At the end of the day, this is what part of the game is. And Daniel Levy has got his eye on where's the next big paycheck coming from. He's got his young men, Heung Min and spit on that thing, and America's the next big payday, and we don't have enough angle in there. That's definitely why we got the deal on Cardoso that we could use until the summer. But I just sit there and go, Jonathan David, I know he's American, born in America, but really Canadian.
Oh, I would take David all day long. I would take David. Definitely.
No, I watched him in Copa games for Canada. He's not physical enough to be the nine. I'm afraid.
Every time I've ever watched him, I'm like, but his numbers
he's going to be like
just
Son at the nine.
Phenomenal. His numbers are phenomenal, mate. His numbers, that you can't hate his numbers. It doesn't matter what he does, at what level. He's Champions League, Europa League, Lille. He just bangs them in, bro. You can't hate the numbers.
It's a different league, Sean. Look, let me ask you a question. And I was asking that question to everybody. In the last 10 years, give me a name of a striker from Europe outside of England who came in and was successful. I'm having a hard time. 10 years. Well, but I'm just saying the game is different, right? him succeeding.
Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, so that's just the first name. I can give you probably 25.
But those are
a
physical,
striker that's
like,
come in since 2014 has been successful in the Premier League.
Like
Alvarez.
How about the guy at Man City who recently left and went to Atletico Madrid?
Alvarez.
Was he that successful?
What's his name?
Julian Alvarez.
Yeah, Julian Alvarez. Perfect. Thank you, thank you, mate. Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think the physicality and the pace and the speed of the Prem is different. So with David, I don't think he's as a winger maybe, but as a number 9, he would have the same issues as Son has. I think he'd be bullied by bigger center backs. That's my opinion.
I think the problem is, right, if I've not really watched much of David. I've seen a couple Copa games, and I can't say that I watch any League One, right? But if we're saying that he puts up good numbers, but maybe isn't consistently influencing matches besides the numbers, is that not the same argument that people have with Brennan Johnson?
Exactly.
And I think Brennan Johnson's all right. Yeah, I've got nothing against Brennan Johnson. I'm not one of these.
Would you play Brennan Johnson in the 9 though, Sam?
I think it works in like against a team like Man City. I don't see why you wouldn't, right? But in most, as we've spoken about before, most teams set up the same way against us, which is low block. And Brennan Johnson thrives on space. He's similar to Son in the sense that, like, you might get from Son, you might get a step over, but you're not going to see like real trickery. They work in space, right? Like the Son that we know and love worked because Harry Kane was able to pick out a pass on the swivel that cut out 5 defenders, and Son was on his bike running in behind, and you would put your house on Son. Even now with the poor form that he's in, to find the back of the net, give him one of those chances. Whereas I think if you're going to look at a player like David, if he's not influencing the games, that's not really what we need. Because I think that to a certain extent, anyone can put the ball in the back of the net, right? And people, the criticism labeled at Johnson is that he's a tap-in merchant. A lot of his goals this season, I actually think have actually been quite good finishes.
Yeah, Sam, I completely agree with you, mate. He's not a tap-in merchant. He's a beneficiary of a system that suits him to be on the end of the right move, because we naturally pivot down the left-hand side more than we do down our right, because he's not good at take-ons. But his job in that role is then to get on the end of the cutback, the pass, right? And he does it very, very well. Like, you can't hate a guy. You can hate a guy for the rest of his build-up play. You can hate the guy for not having the stamina. You can hate the guy for not helping back, and Pedro Porro, all of which I do give him criticism. I think reasonable criticism for. But at the end of the day, like, the system is built for the wing forwards to benefit in terms of goal merchant numbers, and he does that very well. So he does what he's written on the tin of that system. Sorry, Sam,
go on, Sean. I was going to say something, but go on.
Oh, Sam, sorry, Sam, you're finishing point.
I was just going to say I've seen a lot of people. Well, I've seen a few people, Alistair Gold, namely, talking about if people are saying, oh yeah, why don't we bring back Phillips? But someone else who's doing reasonably well is Manor Solomon, right? I'll open it up, right, to the panel after I said what I was going to say. But I mainly watch like European, like Champions League, Europa League, etc., and the Prem. So I don't watch a huge amount of other leagues. But from the highlights that I've seen, the kind of link-up play that Solomon is doing, and he's putting up all right numbers. I know it's the Championship, but he's got that kind of he wants to go for goal, right? So he's looking to pass and move, which is something that the Ange system benefits from, especially if you're playing against these low block teams that draw in defenders and then make the run into the space that they're marking you from. So is Solomon, like, because we've got a finite amount of money and opportunities to bring in players in January, right? So are you're going to have to sacrifice some positions anyway, because we're not going to basically bring in rotation or starting players for every single position, which is basically what I believe we need, right? We basically need a player in every position. Not because our players are terrible, just because we don't have the squad depth, and we can upgrade. We should upgrade. on certain positions. But would you be willing to focus elsewhere and bring in Manor Solomon, which means you can focus elsewhere? Is that something that you guys think?
Manor Solomon, Manor Solomon. Sorry, go on, Ryan. Go on, mate.
Oh no! The only way I would accept to have Solanke in the team, yeah, right. And this is the only way I would have it.
No, he's asking
right,
he's asking about Solomon. He's asking about Solomon.
Oh right. Well, I was going to stand back a little bit to what someone said about David being and because it actually leads me on to Solomon afterwards. I would only take David, right, if there was. I'd only have Solanke with David up front, because the pace of David and Solanke, fine, I'll take that. Going on to Solomon though, I don't know if I would take Solomon back. That's the only thing. I mean, Son is one player that I think needs to be rotated. So I would.
Let's call it as you say. I know what you mean. He's not doing it. He needs to be dropped, right?
Yeah, but obviously,
Son is nowhere near good enough. Solomon ain't good enough either.
But do you think that he would offer more than Timo Werner?
Yeah.
That's the question. That's the question, really.
Well,
do you think that Solomon offers more than Timo Werner? And the answer is probably yes, because from all that I've seen of Solomon since he came to the Prem, is he does have the ability to hit a shot. He was on, there was a few games last season where he made a bit of impact, and then he basically was injured the whole time. And I know that maybe bringing in another injury-prone player while we're in the midst of serious injuries is maybe not the answer, but to have someone
I've got to
rotate.
I've got to be honest though, Sam. There's more. Listen, I don't hate Solomon the player. When he's fit, I think he's a good player. I think he's somewhat sort of what you're looking for. But I've said this 1,000 times. There's a gazillion Solomons out there, tricky one-on-one specialists that don't look up enough. The problem for me, not to get political, but he is political, and there's some delicate thought process. Like, I think part of the reason why he was sent out on loan to Leeds, funnily enough, was because. Again, correct me if I'm wrong here. People in the chat, forgive me if I say things that might be inappropriate here. But I don't know. I mean, Adrian, you yourself sent me the video of Leeds fans that were singing songs about Solomon and the fact that he hates Palestine or whatever. And let's be honest, like Leeds is a part of the English countryside, the English world, where Yorkshire has a bit more of a sympathetic or an anti. I'm probably going to.
They're a bit racist.
We know what
I don't want to say they're racist, but there's that because of the history in that particular in Rotherham and that in parts of Yorkshire where there's the problems with the kind of the
all we've seen of Solomon,
the kids and all that stuff, right? So like the Leeds fans are probably more on board with having a player like that and are happy to sing that sort of thing. I'm not sure it's delicate and politically sensitive enough to have that in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, Solomon did keep Mudryk out of the Shakhtar Donetsk side, and because he went to Fulham, we got him for free. If we do sell him, we'll get with money for nothing, virtually.
Yeah, but my point is right. My point is that when you're loaning out Solomon, how many teams want to have that political hot potato? Leeds United are a team that probably kind of fits because they have a fan base that also feels somewhat. I don't know how to say it in a way that's kind of not going to get cancelled. So I'll stop talking, but I hope I'm kind of making my point.
Yeah, I mean, he had three really appearances for us. He had 2 against sub cameo roles. And he is a winger that takes players on. He's a small winger, right? And the Aaron Lennon sort of mould. And then he played in that away game at Burnley where he caught my attention then because 2 assists for Son in his hat-trick and that 5-2 away win. But then he got injured, and what the club didn't want to do, because it was pre-season and he was like not fit, he was like ready to start training. They didn't want to have him in the squad because they didn't want to go for have him in the squad, take the place up when he weren't fit. That's why that was part of the reason he was loaned out, unless Ange didn't like the look of him. But he doesn't look a bad player. But don't forget, we've got Mikey Morrow who can play on the left. Heung Min is registered now. He could play on the left. If they
Wait, is that how you say his name? Is that how you say his name? Heung Min.
Yeah, Heung Min.
There you go. I always go spit on that Yang because I never know how to say that. Yang,
and look,
and
the wild card is if you want someone who can press and all that, I mean, I want him out of the club at the end of the year unless somebody comes back and smashes it. You can play Richalison on the left because he's used to playing.
That geezer, get him out of the club, mate. I can't stand
Yeah,
Richie.
I'm on
He's
board
so
with
bad.
that. I'm on board with that. Him, Bissouma, and Werner, obviously. And obviously, mate, he'll go. But we've been linked with quite a few goalkeepers as well, if you want to move on. I mean, like, you've got Sam Johnston's interesting because he's 31 now and he's leaving.
He's not interesting. He's not interesting. Avoid him at all play.
Well, then
please.
You've got Patterson and you've got let me go Trafford. And you've got
James Trafford's never going to come to Tottenham and play second, third fiddle. No chance. The goalkeeping thing, guys. The goalkeeping situation is
Sociedad. I think he's 29, the goalkeeper, and he's another one we're linked with.
Yeah,
so
boys, I've got to be honest with you. I love you all to pieces. We've been going for 2 hours. The second semi-final of the darts is about to start. I have to. I've got a massive bet on it, and I have to go and absorb because the darts are sensational. If that's okay with you guys, listen. Every Thursday, this time, 6, 7 o'clock, 5 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier, but Thursday is going to be our day when we get the link out there and get everyone. I want to say a massive thank you to you, Ryan, for your debut on the show. Congratulations, man. You smashed it. Eugene, second time on the show. Absolutely love you, man. You're a legend. And I know you're in the WhatsApp group. Adrian, also, mate, as always, man, part of the furniture. You're always welcome here. Sam, debut on the show, mate. Absolutely sensational. It looks like you've got is that your Twitter handle at Spurs Undercover?
Yes, it is.
Perfect, mate. Sam and Ryan, I've got the Eugene and Adrian's. If you guys want to just drop your numbers in the private chat, I'll add you to the WhatsApp group afterwards. I'd love you guys to get you back on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to say a massive thank you to you guys for hanging around for 2 hours this evening. Like I say, again, apologies if I to Sava and to anyone that felt like I was aggressive or personal or whatever. It really is not my style or my attention, but I hope you can appreciate I'm going through some things and maybe the bad version of me can pop out occasionally. Either way, love you all. Thanks so much for stopping by. You'll see me again tomorrow with Bugsy Malone, bright and early for a...
What time? You're not clashing there, show? What time are you on tomorrow?
No, I'm doing my upload in the morning, sometime between 12 and 1 o'clock, wherever the upload's going out. And then if there is a time, what time's your show tomorrow, Adrian? We'll plug it now.
Spurs Guides, TTID. We're live every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 o'clock UK time, GMT. So
what time are you on tomorrow, though?
8 o'clock UK.
8 p.m. Okay, there you go. Get over to there. I'm actually going to be on Spurs TTID. I think Tuesday after.
Yeah, you're in with me.
Ian, Meth, and yourself. We want to go through some financial stuff.
Yeah.
If there's any transfer news, views, includes, you'll see it here. First here. Maybe not first here, but you'll see it here anyway, guys. And also, I want to say massive shout out to Jim from Oso Spurs. Go over to Oso Spurs. I'll put the link in the description afterwards.
Yeah, I've subbed.
Also to big thank you to Lee from, as I say, I don't know where if he's got a channel, but it takes a brave man who's a frequent member of Tottenham Away to come over here, and I thought he was very, very, very cool and very calm. So, shout out to him as well. And
sorry, man. Do you have an email that I could just email you my number because I don't know my number off the top of my head?
Yeah. You guys can find me at SpursTalkShow@proton.me. The email's in the bottom in the description of the page. SpursTalkShow at proton.me. Guys, also just for what it's worth, there's intentions for this whole situation here to change in 2025. I've got some appointments booked with some really cool commercial offices around the area here, and we're going to be taking this thing, hopefully, if everything goes well, taking this thing to new levels. So you're no longer going to have the yellow wall in the background and pictures of guitars and stuff. You're going to have if everything goes the way I hope it's going to be a fucking phenomenal a one open planned studio that is going to have a cool little L-shaped sofa where we can watch the watch-alongs. It's going to have a darts board. It's going to have a tactics table. It's going to have a cool little office, a cool little kind of presentation, news desk for the stuff. It's going to be sensational. So Spurs Talk Show is stepping it up. Sean Butler TV is coming back with the financial stuff. And on top of that, myself and Johnny are currently in conversations potentially with Henry Wright to take over Henry's channel that he doesn't want to work on anymore, and so we're going to be moving and merging that stuff. It's some really exciting things happening in 2025. As long as I can get rid of these fucking hackers then out of my life, then things will be a lot better. And listen, guys, you can see it all and watch it all grow here first and foremost. I love you all. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks so much for your patience, and apologies again for what happened earlier on the Sava. Not becoming of me. It is what it is. Love you all. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you all. Get over to Oso Spurs. Get over to Tottenham Till I Die, Tottenham Diehards TV. Thank you very much for the super chats from Dermatron, from Stu, from Drew, and from El Dante, member for 8 months, who I didn't even call out. Happy New Year, all the best to you all. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. In fact, I didn't even call out Drew's either. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe if you're not. There you go. That's the perfect way to finish. Thank you so much, Drew. Love you very much, my man. The best ever mod. And don't be offended, Ben, the moderator, the mod father, because Drew's my guy as much as you are, buddy. Love you all. Like, subscribe, and comment, guys. Take it easy. See you next one. Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers. See you later. Bye-bye. Appreciate you, boys.